Welcome everyone to the 2019 PUBG Mobile Club Open, where the top players in mobile from around the globe will be competing for not just the lion's share of $2.5 million, but also the opportunity to say we reign supreme over every other mobile team in the world. My name's Esquire. Joining me on the casting desk for this event will be Trid.
Thanks very much, Phil. As we jump into the North American region, we're here in the Club Open, which is essentially, we're in the North American group stage, but let's have a look at the step that came before. We had the Crew Challenge, which was an open tournament. As long as you're above Platinum, I know that disqualifies some of you that are watching, you could get yourself into an open tournament and accrue enough points or have the potential to do so to end up here in the Club Open, where we enter a group stage format. And there's a little bit more of a journey still to come, because it's all about getting to those global finals that are going to be coming down the line and representing, like Phil said, your country, but then also looking at getting some of that prize pool.
That's exactly right. And with 4 groups here for North America, Trid, we have been able to groom these players for the top tier talent in this region. And Will, like you said, it's not going to be easy. The path to this essentially finals is going to be a tough one for all teams involved. And it's really going to come down to these 4 weeks, really what you can put down every weekend, how many points you can accumulate. Because Trid, at the end of the day, we're dropping 8 teams. It's going to be the bottom 8 teams of the 32.
And we got 4 groups to go through. All of them are going to play each other once over the course of the next 2 weeks in our group stage. Then they're going to do it all over again as we drop the groups from 4 to 3. Those bottom 8s, as we've already mentioned, being just kicked out. You weren't good enough, so you're out of the competition, unfortunately. And
back to the drawing board, as they say.
Absolutely. We're going to drop it down to 3 groups instead, and things start to heat up a little bit more. But when we're looking at the quality of the competition we're going to be getting here, let's bear in mind that we haven't really had a tournament at the same scale as we have right now, beyond Star Challenge, which came at the end of last year. And North America had a decent showing, middle of the pack when it came round to those global finals. But a couple of players who managed to make it to the finals in Dubai found their way back into the Club Open, albeit in different forms.
Right, and that really is a product of these teams recognizing the fact that this is the biggest PUBG Mobile tournament to date, and they have to bring the strongest rosters possible. And well, sometimes that comes in the form of picking up the best players from other teams. So you have seen that happen. Gangstars, they certainly lost some members. They've seen them go over to different teams, and you know, it's going to be interesting, Trid, to see how this top tier talent from North America meshes together. Have the scrims, have the practices been going well for these new rosters, or are they having maybe some woes, some early relationship woes?
Considering that how fluid the situation is, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some teams hitting their full potential on week 1. But people were very vocal on Twitter just when we were having a look around about teams we need to look out for, the likes of Lights Out, Nova, Misfits, Space Station Gaming. These were teams that were all being touted as ones to watch. And thankfully for you guys, we're going to be seeing some of those names later today.
Exactly right. And you might be recognizing some of those orgs because, hey, these are major esports organizations that have come into PUBG Mobile and picked up these amazing rosters. So, Trid, I mean, with that in mind, I mean, you got to think it's going to be fierce. These teams are not only representing the regions, like you said, not only representing their individual skills and prowess, but also these major organizations. And, well, if you got that jersey on, you want to be rocking that jersey all the way to the finals.
Yeah, you want to actually get there and get on camera, because all these guys, they're playing remotely at the moment. They're really abusing the fact it's a mobile esport. And they're playing from the comfort of their own homes for now. But as we move down the road or the path, the journey of this tournament, we start entering those offline stages. And that's when we're starting to get those jerseys out there, getting the faces to the names you're going to be hearing over the next couple of weeks. And speaking of those names, Esquire, we got the likes of Pyra. This guy was on Gangstars. Pyra, Angry, and Beowulf. These are the 3 returning members from Gangstars that are going to turn up in today's match. They've been separated across. They've been put onto that Misfits Gaming roster, one of the new additions of organizations into PUBG Mobile, but they're bringing in some familiar faces as well as some new ones. And you know, Beowulf, this guy was an IGL for Gangstars. He's now found himself onto Nova Esports, another one of these teams we want to be looking out for in the early stages of this competition.
I mean, that's exactly right. Let's talk a little bit about the point placements, what these teams are going to be able to do with kills as well as placements in these games. Trid, kills, 1 point per kill, so not huge when you look at it relative to the points for placements. 30 points, 30 whopping points for first place.
It's not just the 30 points though, it's that drop off between first and second. 30 points for a first place finish, 22 for a second. you got to be playing to survive here, and that might lead to some very passive games as players start to recognize where the true value of these performances lie.
Yeah, I think I'm going to make the guess right now that we are going to see it pretty competitive, pretty action-packed at the beginning when teams can pick up those easy kills, but as you start to get into those upper placements, like you said, the drop-off between second and first is so substantial that you want to play it extremely strategical. You want to play it exactly right, because you and I were talking, Trid, coming in second place when you had a good shot at first, right? When you maybe had 1 or 2 misplays that dropped you into second, it's got to be tilting. It's really got to hurt the morale of the team.
The word I would use to describe it, bittersweet.
Yes.
You get yourself a really good finish. You probably racked up a few kills on your journey to end up in second, but you're missing out on that top prize of 30 points, and it's really got to hurt. Like you said, sting even when it comes into these tournaments. And we're looking at the map rotation we're going to be using. We got some new maps on here, ones you might not be too familiar with in competitive in general. We are going to be seeing Vikendi at some point, and I don't think a lot of these teams are going to be very familiar with that particular map, and that uncertainty kind of works against the passive nature we're expecting, because if you don't know what your opponents are going to do and you're put into like a blitz situation where there's hot drops coming in, it doesn't matter. I don't think you're making it to the upper echelons of placement when you're going to lose stuff so early on. But you know, enough talking about what's going on. Let's have a look what's going to be happening over the next couple of days. We take a look at our schedule for week 1, and we talked about some of the names already. They're populating in Group A and B, which we'll see to kick things off. Group C and D as we move in tomorrow, and we'll close things out again with a second serving of Groups A and C.
Yes, so make sure to go online to PUBG Mobile. Check them out on Twitter. You can see a full posting of the groups there. Check out which of your favorite teams will be playing on which day. But Trid, let's also take a look at the daily schedule, at least for Friday. Match number 1, like you mentioned, we're going to the frozen tundra of Vikendi, and then for game number 2 of the night, we're popping over to the deserts of Miramar and ending out the evening with 2 solid games on Erangel, the tried and tested map. Everyone knows it, they love it. It's going to be fun to see how the strategy plays out on that one in particular.
I think that's probably the most refined play we're going to see of the evening. I think that's the one the players are going to be most familiar with. That double serving of Erangel is going to be happening throughout the rest of the competition. So that's not going away anytime soon. And we're going to see a combination of Vikendi, Miramar, and Sanhok coming in. We're rotating those ones around as the days go on. So we're going to see a nice difference of flavor when it comes to these chicken dinners.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sanhok been a particularly interesting map in the PUBG Mobile scene. Players kind of mixed on it. They think it's a pretty tough map to play competitive, and well, that's no surprise. It's half the size of Erangel and Miramar, and well, when you cut a map in half and keep the same number of players, it's going to be action-packed. The third-party action will reign supreme, so you have to maybe question how your strategy is going to change, and I'm eager to see those Sanhok matches throughout the weekend.
I'm expecting a lot of third parties when it comes around to Sanhok, but we're not going to see that today. No. Vikendi and then Miramar is on the cards before we jump into Erangel. Vikendi, I want to go back to this quickly because I think it's really important to note. We don't see a lot of competitive experience, and I think, like I said, with that uncertainty, it's less about the uncertainty of the map. It's also the uncertainty of what your opponent's going to do.
How do you plan for your enemies when your enemies don't necessarily have a structured plan or a set plan? Because, hey, it's new. It's been around for about 3 to 4 months at this stage in the game. So while teams may have developed some sort of strategy right now, maybe it's not working in these competitive lobbies, or maybe it just hasn't been seen yet by their opponents.
And that's one of the beautiful things about this tournament is we may see some rough starts on these maps, especially in the early weeks when teams try to figure themselves out and figure each other out. But as the gameplay goes on, we're going to be seeing some more refined play, and that gap that might open up in week 1 with the better teams obviously climbing ahead in the points, getting ahead in the leaderboards, it may just accelerate into weeks 2 and 3, and you really start to see which are the teams that can improve week on week and really start to abuse their advantages.
Well, and that's sort of the thing. It's not an extremely short tournament. You do have 4 weeks, but at the same time, it's not an extremely long tournament, so it's going to be a total point chase. You're not going to leave anything on the battlegrounds. If you do, you might find yourself maybe dropping down into those bottom 8, and as we mentioned, you don't want to be there whatsoever.
You don't want to be going home early. You want to be getting to where the big money comes into play, and that's at the regional finals and, of course, the global finals. Because ultimately, if you're the representative from a region like North America, you want to have a good showing at the global finals and make sure people, hey, North America's here to play. We're a region that needs to be taken seriously, and when you got this many players turning up to the global finals, you want to have a good showing.
That's exactly right. Like you said, Trid, North America is here to play, and they are loaded into the plane for game number 1, and here they go. The action for the PUBG Mobile Club Open for North America is kicking off, and you can see the snow on the ground below. And
you can see the plane as well saying, "Let's rock," and I'm ready to do just that. We're looking at the flight path. It's very western. It's going across Dino Park and heading straight down to the winery. So with it being so western, I wonder how much distance these players can get over to the easternmost borders and how it's going to affect the first circle.
Yeah, so Vikendi, another map that's half the size of Erangel and Miramar. It's a 4x4 kilometer map, and with the plane being so far over, like you said, Trid, on the west-hand side of things, if phase number 1 pops and it's all the way in the northeast, a bit of a rotation will have to come out from some of these teams, and rotation's the deadliest part of PUBG.
Misfits seem to be carving off the westernmost flag. Every team is heading east and further east as it goes. Cream have found themselves in a nice position there just southeast of Dobro Mesto. This Pyra and the rest of Misfits going to be dropping at Mofatra.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are going to be trying to get that centralized position, not trying to be too polarized because, hey, rotations are not going to be easy on this small map. There are vehicles, but as we know on Vikendi, a lot of the terrain is a little bit difficult to maneuver, just like Miramar, all those hills, but also on Vikendi, you got that frozen tundra. You're going to be slipping and sliding a little bit.
This could be a little bit dangerous, actually. I'm looking at the way the map's working out, and you've got Error and Lights Out dropping in similar positions just southwest of Winery. That could open up some really early engagements here.
Almost as expected, Trid, we are going to see a lot of teams sort of dropping on each other. As we mentioned in the pregame, not a lot of set strategies for these squads. At least that might not be known between these two groups. 32 teams, Trid, you might not have your research done on all of them.
It's going to be impossible to keep track of them, especially early on. But they'll start making names for themselves. They'll start making the cases. We've already mentioned a few in the pregame, but it's the unknown stars that are coming through the open nature of this tournament that really want to be proving themselves. We're on board with Dex from Shoguns right now, as they're taking that nice position just on the Castle Island, and just to the northwest of them, they've got wildcards up there, and that's been a successful organization. We look at the Star Challenge records. New roster, relatively new to that one, so it'll be interesting to see whether they can retain that former glory that the organization had.
Exactly. Wild card, that motto, stack the deck. We're going to be seeing if they can stack the deck here today as we pop around to our other teams around the map. Just going to be getting an idea as to the loot strategy, the loot philosophy behind these teams, how they're dropping, what formations they're going to be taking. And, one team in particular, Lights Out, facing off against, another enemy presence just off to the east, or rather west of where their position currently is. You see Hot Jukes and the rest of the squad from Error over there looting up, and, they have been spotted. Lucifer is going to be eyeing them down, just making sure no one's encroaching too far into his territory. Yeah,
just abusing the fact we are playing third-person perspective for the entirety of this tournament, able to get that peek through the window and see a now mobile team Error moving out of the location. So I think both of these teams very aware of what was happening and where each other is. And I'm looking at where this circle is spawned, and it's off over into the northeast. So these teams down in Winery need to start thinking about that mobility and the rotations into the next circle.
Exactly, and they're going to have a few teams to traverse through, some obstacles on the way to that first safe zone of game number 1 of week number 1 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open. Popping now over to one of our famed teams here, it is going to be none other than the Silent Killers, and certainly being a little silent right now, Trid, as they are looting up on these hills. They're getting some good buildings out, while Mitz, their player off in that solo flank, will be trying to scout out some information, making sure no one pushes up too far onto them.
And Blinded by Wind, might be moving up here, trying to move over to the northwest, currently just outside of Cosmodrome. And they've got to be dealing with Pittsburgh Knights, who are just already occupying this compound. They're just on the fringes looking to find an avenue to get in here and potentially take an engagement.
Yeah, and in terms of where the Pittsburgh Knights are positioned, they're essentially center circle. There is going to be some water in play on the far northeastern side of this zone, but you have to think Pittsburgh Knights, that centralized position. You see teams crashing into that in favor of not having to make those late game rotations or far rotations. But right now, we are seeing Blinded by Wind picking up their teammates, hopping in the Dacia. I saw some people talking about it, Trid. What's your favorite car?
The Dacia, it's classic.
I think everyone has to go with the Dacia.
It's the classic. You look at some other PUBG events, everyone's actually seen the real-life model, the car that it was modeled on. And I've spent some time out in Kiev, and you can actually see where those vehicles or the origins come from. As Blinded by Wind just going to pick up that second vehicle as they get out of Dodge. They don't want to be taking this early crash into the Cosmodrome and dealing with Pittsburgh Knights.
No, certainly an important switch right there. You don't want to have your 4 stack in one car. A nicely placed spray by even one opponent could find multiple targets inside of that vehicle. So get as many cars as possible. They could even help you in the late game if you don't have a compound to hide inside and seek as man-made cover. You could pull up some mobile cover.
And the teams are starting to make those rotations into the circle. You can see Misfits there in the same vehicle, unfortunately, making their way towards Villa on the southwest side of that circle. And you got Space Station Gaming. They're on the bottom side of the map just by Hot Springs. And they may be dealing with Totality coming into their area of influence, so to speak, because you just see Richie just outside Hot Springs looking to come in there slowly. I'm fairly certain we're going to see Space Station Gaming be aware of that.
Yeah, it also looks like a few members of Lights Out are trying to make that rotation just near the members of Totality as well, so you have to be careful. Trid, we're starting to get into the beef of this game, right? The rotations are being made, which means the action will start to pop off, because given this circle, given phase number 1, like you're looking at right now in the far northeast, a lot of the area of Vikendi is not going to be in place, so that creates a circle that you're used to seeing around maybe phase 2, maybe phase 3, and will teams have to adjust?
It's going to accelerate the game, and we've already got ourselves that rotation coming through. Lights Out actually passing straight past Space Station Gaming. They want to avoid this collapse and being pinched between two different teams. They move into the circle, but they might end up just crashing straight into Shoguns if they're not careful with this.
Oh, and look at this right here. The Silent Killers are rolling down the hill. They heard some rotations nearby, and well, Felix is going to be scouting this out, going to be trying to utilize that scope to see if any enemies are approaching, and if he looks close enough, he's going to be spotting out some of the members of Wildcard off in the distance.
No one wants to be the first team of the NA region to go down, or even the first player to get dropped here on Vikendi. And Cream's being spotted out by Silent Killers, so they've got that information that there's another team near in close proximity. And you look at this wildcards here, Misfits potentially fighting over with Hot Jukes and the rest of Era. There's a lot of engagements happening by Podvosto.
Yeah, and interesting to see that they weren't taking shots right there. The Silent Killers just soaking up this information, waiting until the prime opportunity to not only get the knocks, but secure the knocks and flush them out as kills. But the shots will be coming out from the Silent Killers. They're going to be spraying down on these envoys, trying to make their way inside of the circle. And it's going to be our first blood of the game. The Misfits are going to be getting a nice knock onto the members of Polar Ace Esports.
Just taking out Shakes, unable to stay into that next fight. Locked down in that cavern, and they just ram-raided the entire thing as Munoz is looking for further shots here on Cream Esports with the rest of his team. They've got the low ground, and they're having to just play a little bit of duck hunt behind the trees and try and pop out the rest of the Silent Killers, but they're relatively locked down here, but they do have control. They're more central in the circle, and depending on where the next phase draws it, it might dictate or force the hand of one of these two teams.
Exactly right, and I was applauding the Silent Killers on not taking those shots, just soaking up the information, because as soon as they did take the shots, Trid, you saw immediately Cream had that wide open hill to shoot back at them, and they were able to secure a kill onto the Silent Killers, dropping them down to 3 players alive. Well, one team that still has all 4 stacked on them will be Wildcard, continuing on this rotation to the far eastern side of Vikendi, able to lock down a compound, so it's going to be good for them to hold on to before phase 2 pops out.
Compounds are going to be safety here for all teams. Is still Silent Killers just having that standoff with the rest of Cream Esports. They don't want to give up this territory. And like I said, the hands are going to be forced. If we're looking just south of Peshkova, we've got ourselves F6 going in here, but there's more shots being taken against them, trying to fight against Shoguns, and they're going to get in their Dacia and just drive away. They've got 2 Dacias to hand. They're going to be an incredibly mobile team, and they're going to be able to adapt to whatever circle comes at them. They don't need to be taking this engagement this early on, because Space Station Gaming are about to crash onto Shoguns, and they can be pincered here by both F6 and Space Station Gaming.
Exactly, and in that type of scenario, who really wins in that? You would expect all 3 teams to start to take damage, lose the war of attrition with each other, but now the shots are going to be coming out here. Yoda trying to pop off some shots at the members of F6 pushing in. Now they're going to be crashing onto the bar and almost immediately taking some shots now. That's going to be Yoda dropped down.
Yeah. It's going to be F6 coming in with this one on a nice little flank by F2 as he moves in, but he's being shot from behind. They're trying to crash into the compound. They got themselves Shoguns. They're going to knock one, get that kill onto Dex, but they still have to deal with Space Station Gaming, who are just biding their time on the outside, looking to pick off vulnerable members, but they're going to lock down this compound instead and then deal with a weakened F6 or whatever comes out there.
You hate to see it. That's going to be our first team eliminated from game number 1 here. Shogun down and out. They're going to have to go back to the drawing board for Vikendi. Maybe look at the VOD odds before our next Vikendi match over the weekend, but as far as it's concerned, they're not going to have another chance to improve off of this performance on Vikendi.
F6, they're playing with 3 members now. They've lost one. The casualty and the damage has been done. Now it's going to hinder them for the rest of this map. They can still get some work done with 3 members. It's not a total loss, but you're going into full-scale squad engagements and you're not being third-partied. It just can put you at such a disadvantage missing that extra gun in the fight.
Phase 2 has popped about 20 seconds until the blue zone starts to shrink in on our second phase of game number 1. And with these quick timelines, Will, you're already starting to see these rotations as Space Station Gaming quickly pulled off of that. But Wildcard has now found themselves some opponents, some shooting targets in the form of Misfits.
They need to be careful, though. Lights Out are off to the western flank. If they heat up Misfits too much, they're going to end up just getting third party by Lights Out. And they do not want that to happen because, like we keep talking about, Lights Out are one of these teams we need to be keeping an eye on throughout the rest of this tournament. So you got to imagine that naturally comes with some mechanical ability. Yeah,
it absolutely does. And you have to kind of think, though, a lot of the teams that made it here in the first place have those mechanics. It comes down more so to the strategy that they're able to employ as a 4-man squad and what they're really able to pull off in that regard. But Lights Out, just like you mentioned, Tread, they're going to be looking over on Misfits, maybe have spotted them out right now, but they've got the compound cover to work with, just soaking up that information. And, well, information is certainly key in PUBG.
Absolutely. HQA may be going in here. No, they're actually going to spot out where Space Station Gaming is and just going to avoid them as they go in from the southeast here to try and get into the circle. So I don't think they're going to be under risk. The shots being taken here. Blinded by Wind, just trying to pop off and maybe get a few shots on Wildcard without taking too much damage themselves, as they have the relative safety of their compound of their own, just to the right of the Cosmodrome.
Yeah, Wildcard in a very exposed position on that rotation. Polar Ace Esports as well, having lost a member early on in this game, are trying to ride the horizon of this hill. Certainly they hear the shots coming out from the compound right below them as Manny is going to be spotting out some of the members of Wildcard. Blinded by Wind has played this very aggressively so far this game. They're not shy from battle whatsoever.
Yeah, as Illusion's going to move around and try and get a more favorable covered position. An incredibly mobile Totality coming in. All 4 members got hold of some form of vehicle as they're just moving in to the circle east of Peshkova. They're going to be coming in and completely avoiding the rest of this engagement as Blinded by Wind still keeping their eyes on Wildcard as the teams need to start moving up to the Cosmodrome, especially because we've actually got a loot drop to the northeast of that place, and it's all potentially here for just Error to take control of because they're the closest team to it.
Yeah, this is a tough circle to work with, similar to phase number 1. Circle number 2, phase number 2, has a lot of water, unplayable areas inside of it, which makes the play area significantly smaller than teams are used to at this stage in the game. So right now you're seeing a lot of teams crash compounds, and once they crash it, they're putting out these poke shots onto their enemies, just trying to keep them off, keep a buffer zone in between them and their opponents so that they can stay safe as long as possible in these games.
Blinded by Wind essentially setting up a toll booth here. If you want to go down this road, you're going to have to pay a fine. It's going to be blood you're paying it with. You're going to try and cross through here. They're just going to gun you down the second you try and make a rotation through this choker, this crossroad they have control of. So you're going to have to go off-road with this one. You can't go through there and risk the firefight. And that's exactly what Wildcard are trying to do. They're just trying to disrupt them, get them out of this fortified location they've got themselves.
And as you can see, the next phase has popped. Phase 3 is in full effect, and these circles have not been friendly to any of these teams here on this map. Started out with a far western plane path, and now we're finding ourselves continuing to shift further and further to the northeast. Well, Parka, he's going to be spotting out another team. This time it's going to be HQA off in the distance, taking shots from a beautiful M24. That bolt action sniper trade, when it hits, it certainly hits.
It packs a punch. You do not want to be on the receiving end of it. Multiple squads are fighting over this area there. That's F6 picking up 2 kills. Totality taking their first casualties of the game as Triggs has been removed. So is Dodger. It's not looking good for them. They're going to be knocked out. Space Station Gaming even lost 6less in that engagement as the rest of Totality, I believe, have just been eliminated.
Yeah, being with 3 members in a 4-man squad environment isn't too detrimental to what you're trying to accomplish, but when you drop down to 2 and just a solo player alive, your entire strategy has to change, and we're going to be looking at Totality to see if they're going to be able to adjust on the fly with the quickness to save themselves a placement here in game number 1.
You can immediately see what Lord Fudo has done. He's gone to the most eastern part of this map just to try and take cover with any members of Totality that he's got. As we're still looking at Parker taking these shots with the M24. He's not being able to get the knock there just to secure the kill. But he's still keeping a lot of pressure on the space station, and they're reacting really well. They drop the smoke, try and get the recovery, play around the terrain, and get themselves back in the game.
Yeah, they got to do it, but Space Station Gaming is in such a dire position. They're going to have to utilize so much utility in the form of smoke grenades to get off of that hill and down to safety. But blinded by wind, they're going to be pulling off of this, already being so aggressive in this match. They've created that buffer zone that we were sort of talking about. You know, it really comes down to it, both a perfect combination, I would say, Trid, of both defensive and offensive play that are going to give these top teams the opportunity to really rack up the points.
So Space Station Gaming actually have split off earlier. They went for a 2-2 split on this one as Carnage, he's going to be driving to the eastern side, maybe doing a scout, because he's quite close to where F6 are, just south of Trevno, where thankfully the two remaining members of Totality managed to secure themselves. And now you got Juicy and Angry coming into the circle from behind. Carnage just going to secure this position and make it relatively easy just to get that information as the circle begins to fully complete its travel, and we look at heading into the next phase.
Yes, and one team that we haven't really looked at so far this game, it's going to be Nova Esports. Team number 14, Beowulf, Epic, and the rest of the crew continuing to hold down on this compound as the next phase. Phase number 4 will pop, and well, they're going to have to start thinking about how they are going to react to these teams that are going to be crashing around them. Phase number 4, it's fully on land, no water going to be in play. So, where are they going to go, Trid? Which teams are going to have some issues? Because certainly I can start to ice them.
I can start to ice them, but people who aren't having issues at the moment, lights out. They have a drop just landing straight on top of them, and they have a 4v2 situation where you're going to have the rest of Totality have to push into them and crash into them to get access to that circle. It's not looking good for Totality, but lights out. They can loot that package. Who knows the bountiful goods that rely or just waiting in that red box.
Exactly. Looking at Nova's positioning inside this compound, you have to applaud them on keeping an eye on their surroundings. It's so important when you get locked into these compounds that you don't become complacent, because a compound, it can be a safety blanket, almost a false sense of security early in the game. And when you find yourselves maybe having to make those rotations out of the compound, well, a team might be waiting there with their scopes set on those doors, on those exit points.
As long as you get all your flanks covered, you can't be caught off guard, can't be caught by surprise. Pittsburgh Knights got themselves killed. They go in here, just going to get the knock there. Looking to secure the kill. Is Raven going to pick up? Good member there. Chris going down. And now he's just turning his eyesight to that second hill. You got Unnamed just having to take cover, scour like rats to find some semblance of safety from the rain of fire that's now coming out on top of them.
And here we have Team Error, Hot Jukes inside of the building while Reptar is bleeding out outside. He's not going to be able to get any easy help right now, especially with the Pittsburgh Knights approaching. And Will Jagger sticking out like a sore thumb in that orange outfit on the frozen terrain. He's trying to do whatever he can to sort of ride this horizon, utilize that third-party peeker's advantage to try to see if he can spot any opponents across the hill.
And Reptar, he's still making that movement. He's trying to find a way to either get to his teammate, but he's having to take such a convoluted route to get there that I don't think Hot Jukes is going to be able to finish it off. And finally, Wi-Fi comes in with the kill secure. Reptar finally going to be laid to rest, and it's not looking good for Team Error. I think Hot Jukes is the last man standing, just going to play for placement this time around, I think.
Trid, we talked about it in the pregame. Certainly placement points are so significant here in this tournament, but also in some of the other regions throughout the day, we saw 1 point separate a few teams from maybe, you know, what you would consider and early on those relegation type spots, those bottom 8 spots that are going to drop out. And when you have to chase these points wherever you can get them, well, you get a knock. It's not over yet. You have to secure that flush.
And like what Wildcard have done here, they split themselves in between those two buildings, but they got themselves a tasty little compound, maybe sharing it soon with Ace, depending on how the circle moves into this one. They've got a high ground advantage there. As teams are starting to make their way into the circle, and most of them have carved out their own piece of land when it comes to Vikendi. And I think F6 might unfortunately rumble a few jimmies as they go into that eastern side and enter into that circle.
Zeus from Wildcard just shy of that 20-minute mark here in game number 1 as the blue zone approaches phase number 4. Phase number 5 coming in next, and the circle continues to shrink. And how will these players be able to react? We saw one team go out incredibly early, but since then, all 15 remaining teams have continued to fight it out. A little bit passive, just putting out those poke shots left and right, keeping teams back off of their position. But Trid, you're not going to be able to avoid the action for much longer as the play zone restricts.
Look at Lights Out here. They've got a nice little position. They've got the cars with cover, so they've also got that mobility if they need to make some fast rotations. The circles just come in, and it's just collapsing on top of Blinded by Win and Misfits. Ace are in the circle only just, but a lot of teams are going to have to start crashing in here. This is where action is really going to start to kick off the Squire.
Certainly, and teams are going to be in sort of a chaotic mess trying to bomb inside of this phase, and it's not going to be easy. You're going to find yourselves trying to avoid shots from one team and possibly crashing directly into another as F6 starts to pop off. They're able to find another knock onto a member of Totality. Totality left with just Richie standing alive and well. Fudo going to be knocked out and flushed out of the game. Richie, it's truly all on his shoulders. What can he do here in game number 1?
He was the sacrificial lamb, and now he's caught down there in that house. Lights Out have the high ground, but he's got F6 knocking on his door. Hopefully they can go ahead and distract the likes of Space Station Gaming and Lights Out. Maybe buy Richie some time to stay in the game, get a favorable position, and climb up the rankings in placement. Just this isn't a total loss for his team.
So in this rotation, with so many teams outside of the zone, you have to be of this mindset. Take the fights that we absolutely have to. Avoid the fights that aren't going to earn us anything. And well, some teams are starting to learn that right now as F6 loses a member. Happy going to be knocked by the likes of Space Station Gaming as Lights Out is popping off. The action is erupting all across Vikendi.
They need to get in that Darcia, regroup with the rest of the team. They're going in highly mobile, trying to find unnamed Bill, take him out as they get themselves a knock and finally secure the kill. Look at Seagut. He's full on to secure it there as Parker finally taking out other members of Unnamed, and I think they're just being wiped off the map at the moment. They just need to finish it off as Ace is even taking casualties. Pittsburgh Knights able to take those ones out. They're dismantling the vehicles, removing mobility that's not theirs, but also creating cover with the smoke to revive their downed teammates.
Lights Out losing so much in that transition. How will they be able to recover off of it as Space Station Gaming is now crashing into a barn? They've got Carnage looking off of their, I believe that's their southwestern flank, trying to spot out any enemies approaching as Baba from F6 continues to try to spot out all of these teams rotating. It's pretty much fish in a barrel with so many enemies coming there, but when you put those shots out, are you getting blocked? Are you revealing your position to another team?
He's trying to obscure anything here. They're just throwing those grenades in. Raven's going to get the down onto Parker, finished off by himself, so he's still fighting, trying to keep Unnamed in it. Carnage, he's got the knock onto Arcs. It's not looking good as Ace then opens it up onto Zeus as well. Space Station Gaming trying to move into this compound. They just erupt and try and get the kill here. Nice little fancy footwork will keep him up, but Space Station trying to get their down member back in the game as he takes cover from Blinded by Win as they're just coming down to try and contest them and not give over control of this compound they've got for themselves.
Such an aggressive push up the stairs, completely backfired on the Space Station Gaming. A quick retreat off of that choke point inside of this building will be at least giving a bit of reprieve for the members of Blinded by Win. But it's not over yet. The play area has shrunk once again, and down to the southwest we continue to go. And Misfits, Trid, they're going to be loving it. They weren't inside of phase number 1 with that far western drop, but now they have secured a prime spot inside of phase number 5.
It's all coming up. Misfits, like you're saying, Esquire, they've got that circle advantage. They're going to be able to hold it. Unnamed just being picked off finally. Space Station Gaming, they retreat back out, Blinded by Win. They're still in the same area, but they're picking up frags, trying to recover, get themselves back in the game. Pirates, obviously missing from Misfits. They've got 3 members. They're missing 1 as it comes into the final circles, but that position may compensate for what they're missing out. They're trying to take those pop shots at Cream, which is cowering behind the rock and that vehicle.
Yeah, not a bad position for Cream. You can see them down in the southeast. No other enemy teams approaching off of that eastern flank, so they are going to be okay as long as they continue to keep those heads low and out of sights of the members of Misfits. SKS shots certainly going to be ringing right over those domes, so keep them low if you're on that squad. We do have, though, 12 teams remaining, which is a significant amount of teams with this small of a play area, and you have to think that boiling point continues to go. More teams are going to drop like flies.
Ace is sitting on the AK. He's got a nice angle here, using the third person. Ace is trying to crash into their building. He takes shots at Dilly. He's completely exposed on the hill. There's not much he's going to be able to do about it, but he has to take cover. Now they need to be concerned about where those Ace members were going. And they've just been picked off by Nova, who just cleaned them and erupted them, removed them from the map altogether. A lot of engagements happening on the northeast as teams are just trying to scramble to get position. Jagger just going to be opened up, or Misfits finding that line of sight onto Pittsburgh Knights. Not able to finish them off as losing HQA. Space Station Gaming going down as well. Lights Out taking casualties. Illusions even going down as well. Misfits abusing this position, but they're not able to get any kills themselves.
And this is the thing you have to think of with Misfits. So many teams sort of encircling them. Will they be able to keep their flank watch on point, or will they get collapsed on by one team when they're worried about the 4 other squads approaching on the west-hand side of the circle? But one team that's got a hell of a path in front of them to try to get inside of the safe zone is going to be Blinded by Win. HQA is going to be looking directly at them.
But their old enemy, Space Station Gaming, Gaming, they're still there after that failed push. They're still in the area. They're going to look to capitalize and get their own back, but they're just going to find themselves dropped out here as Blinded by Win able to deal with them handily. Even Wildcard getting on the action as they find Juicy, and Anger is just going to drop to the play zone. So it's not looking good for them as we're just looking at the last dregs of players moving into what could be one of our final circles.
Seeing players go out to the play zone is just a product of how incredibly chaotic the insides of this phase number 6 of the game is getting. Shots coming out from all direction, the pressure being applied so hard that Space Station Gaming wasn't able to really move out of there, and well, down goes a member of that squad to the blue zone.
So Nova and HQA are the only two teams that have a full surviving squad left. Rangers out in the blue zone trying to just heal through it for placement right now. And Nova need to get moving. They're about to be caught up by the blue if they're not too careful. They look to try and get into this position as Misfits. The circle just keeps shrinking on them like a magnifying glass. They're in the best possible position they could be.
And the thing is, they are executing that pressure game so properly that no teams can really push up onto that compound and seek some cover maybe on the wall side. Whatever they have to do, they've got to do something because every team on the edge of the circle right now has wide open areas to traverse. Maybe a rock here, maybe a rock here, but do they have enough smokes, enough utility to be able to make those treks?
That central control coming in from Misfits is going to be so key here. Munoz, obviously from Cream, you got Wi-Fi from Pittsburgh Knights still alive as solo operators. Their worst fear is that they just get sandwiched between Nova. Misfits trying to keep Nova at bay as they want to regress and crash into this building and try and take the control for themselves. HQA going very aggressive, just taking the vehicle, trying to take the Express right behind Misfits. They're just going to breach into this room. Look at the plays coming in from Zethan. Zeus clears them out. Hoodsie as well, trying to find Nova. Will get knocked, stays alive, but they've just entirely contested Misfits now. Perkasas in such a dangerous position. He wants to try and fight Nova, but Ace is taken out too, finishing off Nova. They have to deal with HQA and just taking over this territory so aggressively.
Such a confident play coming out of the members of HQA, and that's how you had to dominantly crash that building. You can't waste any time. You can't let the Misfits try to formulate a strategy. You got to catch them off guard. Brilliant job by the members of HQA, but it's not over yet. 5 teams remaining as Misfits. Perkasas will be tossing out some grenades, trying to get some pressure out on the remaining members of HQA in his vicinity. One member to work with. It's going to be Kwang on the far side of that building. He's going to be riding the wall as well, trying to get an outside flank onto the member of Misfits, but does not have it just yet.
Acer getting 4 kills. He's leading the kills in this round. He's still the players that are alive. They try and move in, and Beowulf's been taken out by Nova. That IGL for them, she's going to finish him off. Nova now being removed altogether. So despite it all, Pittsburgh Knights, Wi-Fi, Munoz able to stay in it until Wi-Fi just going down there to Kuang, who comes in there from HQA. It's looking like HQA are going to walk away with this one.
Yeah, good thing for the Pittsburgh Knights. Even though they did go out in 4th position, they were able to rack up 4 kills along the way. So it's kill points on placement points. You got to be happy with the Pittsburgh Knights. Not a terrible performance here in this game. But HQA,
Acer just dropped 2?
Acer just dropped 2. He's going for that massive kill count right now. 4 kills to his name so far, but can he find the flush? Misfits, top fragger, is coming out strong.
Look at how they're playing so protectively. They're trying to find and protect the corpses. Ethan trying to find the kill. Doesn't want to let them go through here, as he may end up in a situation. He's going to go for the res, maybe force the hand of Acer. Yifei off to the side. Munoz just sitting in the bush waiting. Perkasas there, maybe to help. The nade goes in, gets the kill on Hunzi. So it's just going to make sure he goes down as well. And you're just left with 3 members on HQA. Misfits do not want to give up control of this game.
They absolutely do not. A Molotov coming in from Zyphon, almost connecting on to his enemy or his teammate rather. But Acer continues to hold strong on the outside of the window. He's trying to use this third-party perspective advantage to the best ability that he can. Popping outside of the building, did get an eye on to Zyphon, but popping immediately back inside to safety. The standoff between HQA and Misfits continues, but here comes the rush.
He just goes in and it goes all Pete Tong for HQA as Ace is just going to take control, level the playing field to a 2-on-2 as Munoz still being that sneaky beaver hiding outside the action. He wants the third party this final fight and potentially look for the win. But his hand's being forced by the blue zone. It's coming in soon. He's going to have to change position, leave that cover and contest Acer as Acer just going to deal with Yifei and Krang's going down. This is a 2v1. Misfits looking to take out that final member as Acer's going to get a spray and finishes it off. Misfits Gaming going to take the first victory of the Club Open North American region.
And not just a victory, Trid. Acer with 8 kills. That is absolutely insane. The top fragger of the lobby. No one was even close. I believe the second closest kill count was 4 kills by a player on the map. So Acer, what's he doing right? I don't know, but Misfits saw it and they signed him.
Just holding down the fort, literally, when it comes down to that compound, able to get those 8 kills off, and Uneven did come in with a couple of kills of his own. Perkasass was just there for pressure in the other building, keeping himself aware and trying to keep the aggressors at bay, and it was just setting up the show for the leading man, Acer, to then pop off against all aggression, getting the 2-for-1 trades coming in on him as well. Absolutely incredible play to close out the first series.
Trid, I said it was going to be a point chase for these teams across all weekends of the Mobile Club Open, but Misfits, wow, did they take that advice and they went with it. 30 points for that first place finish, 11 points for those 11 kills, 41 points, where we had teams in this lobby not even rack up 5 points. That's insane, Trid.
I think we actually had a couple of 0-kill teams.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Unable to back up those kills, especially if you're going down early and you're going into the final stages with reduced numbers. There's no way you're going to be able to have the pressure and just have the awareness to be able to pick up those kills. So, like you said, storming ahead after one game, and we've still got plenty more to come just on this day alone.
What an exciting game, though. I think that's what we can walk away with game number 1 of this tournament, the first game in totality of it. Very exciting.
Speaking of which, didn't have the best of games. They got themselves into the upper echelon of the standings, but they lost a couple of members early and had ended up playing just with basically their right arm cut off because they're just playing with 2 men instead of 4. And then when they're trying to crash through teams like Space Station Gaming, who just had a positional advantage, and Lights Out mainly, who were just holding that position to the west of them and basically being the gatekeepers of getting into that circle for them, they tried to breach through hard and fast, and they just ended up paying a penalty for it that they just couldn't surmount.
Another team that paid a penalty, Blinded by Win. They were so aggressive the entire game. You wanted to almost think that they were going to make it into those top 3 placements. Unfortunately, the circle shifts are not always friendly, and Blinded by Win, they had to push off of that far eastern side. So many obstacles in the forms of enemy teams waiting for them.
I actually think that Blinded by Win's biggest mistake was injuring Space Station Gaming, but not finishing them off. Space Station Gaming obviously going for that breach against them, trying to take control of that real estate, and Blinded by Win just saying, no, get out. We're done with you. You're not coming in here. And then they just let them get away.
Yeah.
They knocked one of the members. They were trying to go for the revive. They let them get the revive in as well. And they just weren't able to put their pressure. And then when it came around to making those rotations, who was waiting to pincer them as they came out the door? Space Station Gaming, a team they wounded. They had the boot on heel, or the boot on neck, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't apply enough pressure. And suddenly, just comes out and it goes all wrong for them.
Exactly right. And one of the other interesting or exciting things about this is now a game has been played. Half of the teams in the North American lobbies have played. Their skills are being assessed by not just the groups competing here today, but all groups. Because, hey, Trid, at the end of the day, you're going to be playing each other. If you're not playing tonight, one of these days, one of these weeks, you're going to be facing off against the teams that are playing. So scout them out. What are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? If I'm one of the teams that isn't playing Trid, I'm looking at Misfits and I'm trying to dissect what these guys are doing, because that's not a fluke. A 41-point game, that is not something that just happens by chance. They did something right.
Yeah, they got it. I would say there's definitely a lot of skill behind it. I'm saying their circle placement, though, I mean, they just had, unbelievable. They barely had to move after, phase 2.
Right.
So a lot of things going in their favor, but I do completely agree with you as well. When you've got a player like Acer taking on multi-man engagements and coming out on top, yeah, it's more than just luck coming into this one.
I think that's what's so impressive about Misfits' play, and we kind of mentioned it a few times during the game when they held those centralized compounds. And, centralized compounds, sure, they're great, but they also invite a lot of attention from the teams playing the edge, and you have to put off that pressure so you don't get crashed. Ultimately, we saw them crashed by HQA, but for a majority of this game, they were able to hold off enemy presence entirely, and you got to give it up. I think that's one of the key factors of Misfits' win.
HQA, though, I mean, a ballsy crash onto that Misfits compound.
A necessary crash.
Necessary as well, and it was looking like they were going to take away the game, and
so close.
They just couldn't finish it off. And, the nades coming out from Acer basically sealed the deal there and just applied that pressure. Another team that didn't really show up that much, I think, was Aero. It was one of the teams, Hot Jukes was on there as a name who should be quite familiar with the North American region. Didn't have the best of showing in game 1.
No.
They were kind of gifted some care packages if they would have gone for them. We didn't really get vision of whether they did contest and go for it ultimately. Nova Esports going out quite early as well. They did put in a good showing, but they were just on too low numbers when it came down to the final phases and just couldn't capitalize on anything to convert it.
Yeah, and especially when you're low on numbers and you had those drastic polar shifts like we kept seeing. I mean, these rotations were not friendly to anyone except for Misfits, yes, but when you're working with not that full 4-man squad, be able to watch those angles entirely, because you got to think, Trid, 4 people watching those angles, it's a lot different than a 1 or a solo player or a 2-man squad. Again, 3-man squads, they don't lose too much in that process, but it certainly did hamper Nova.
Well, I think that we're going to go to a quick break, and then when we come back, we're going to bring you Miramar, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 2019 PUBG Mobile Club Open. Trid, what an incredible first game that we saw played out there.
First debut map of Vikendi, and just the debut of North America as well. Misfits, of course, coming in with the win off of that absolutely monstrous performance by Acer. 8 kills, taking on those multi-man engagements, putting Misfits Gaming on the map and setting expectations relatively high moving into this next map.
Yes, and setting maybe fear levels of some teams in this lobby a little bit high as well. You have to be concerned when you have a performance like that from a team, how the rest of these games in these lobbies are going to go, and if you're in groups C or D, how your games are going to go when you face off against the Misfits.
Yeah, you've got to be worrying about that because you're going to have Group A, Misfits Gaming, obviously in that group, going in against Group C on Sunday. It's Group B and D we're going to see tomorrow, and they're basically going to be watching this one, and it's going to be learning these teams because they're going to go up in the rotation later on down the line, and we try and cycle through because every group is going to be matched against the other group in almost like a round robin, a group so to speak, playing on a fair rotation of maps as we go on. And speaking of rotation of maps, we're moving on to Miramar for our second map of the day, and this is one that PUBG competitive players should be slightly more familiar with. It's been in the rotation a lot longer than the likes of Vikendi.
It's been in the rotation forever. Teams have had that time to practice. They've scrimmed on it. So yes, you would expect strategies to, at this stage in the game, be just as advanced, just as, I guess, perfected as they are on Erangel. Certainly, yes, Vikendi, it's going to be a bit of an outlier. Teams haven't had that full length of time to really ingrain those strategies in their roster, but it's a different story as we cross over to the desert.
Yeah, things are going to be a little bit more fast-paced. Mobility, kind of important there. You've got to get hold of those vehicles. Everyone loves a good motorcycle. You can pull that one out, get yourself rolling with the free seater.
Yes.
Obviously, never going to have the full stack in there, but you know, it's good for a nice little bit of scouting, information gathering, and a lot of playing around the terrain when it comes to the Miramar. That desert, obviously, probably those valleys and those troughs as it comes in.
Yeah, and that's one of the deadliest parts about Miramar is the fact that you do have those hills. If you veer off of a road because you have to avoid some type of conflict, well, you might find yourself flipping a vehicle and then in a completely vulnerable position. So that's one of the, I guess, the tougher parts to grasp about Miramar is in those chaotic situations when you have to go over, you know, the bumps, the valleys, everything like that. How are you going to be able to know the terrain? Do you know it well enough to take the proper paths?
I'm hoping these teams do. If they got to this stage of the competition, I kind of have a little bit of faith in them to know what they're doing to a degree. Like, we're going to touch on a point I touched on Vikendi because we didn't see a whole lot of it, but there were certain instances where we did see the hot drops come in.
Yes.
People were very aware of that. They played very passively and kind of moved around each other. No one took those early engagements, thankfully. Miramar, I feel as though teams would be more familiar with what's possible. That doesn't necessarily mean they're familiar with what each other is going to do. So hot drops still an option here as teams, like we say, start to stamp their claim on particular territories.
And those are going to be sort of an item that we're going to see a lot of, those sort of contested drops, because multiple groups, Trid, it's not just groups A and B that are going to be fighting against each other. With 32 teams, there is bound to be some overlap, and we are likely to see it this weekend.
I mean, if all 32 of our teams so far claimed a stake on an individual compound or territory for them to hot drop onto, there's going to be so much free real estate when those teams aren't playing. Obviously, we've got 2 groups that aren't competing today at all, and you know, you have to be a little bit more dynamic and maybe have multiple drops depending on which groups you're going up on, and I really hope the teams are adaptable in that sense.
Certainly they're going to have to be, because Miramar is going to be no easier than Vikendi was. It is a competitive environment, and Trid, these teams showed up to do just that, compete and try to rake up as many points as possible. And with that said, Trid, real estate is about to be taken up here on this Miramar map. The desert is about to be in play, and our players are about to load up into that plane and go soaring across the map.
And you know what? I have a feeling that we're going to be having some teams here looking for the target that's now been painted on the back of Misfits Gaming.
Yes.
They had a monstrous 41-point game on Vikendi, and they're starting to climb away with this one. If you're not too careful, they're going to have an insurmountable lead. So obviously teams, maybe you see that Misfits Gaming tag, maybe you get a knock and you go, hang on a minute, that Misfits are over in there in that compound. Let's go aggressive, take them out. Let's try and level the playing field a little bit here. So be interested to see if that fear, we're calling it, or potentially even calling it just target calling onto Misfits, maybe into play on this second map, as teams are starting to drop out here and start to deploy over Miramar.
Exactly. I think there's going to be 2 thought processes. If a team ends up getting a knock on Misfits, sure, there might be a team that says, let's rush this, let's get them out, let's stop them from earning points. And, well, there might be a few other teams that feel like, oh, crap, that is Misfits. We got to get out of here, guys.
The plane's just going over. It's on a southbound track. relatively, I think it's relatively central. We'll get clarification when we get the map up on the screen. No, it's going to be going over and across from west to east, and a lot of teams are just separating out. Pittsburgh Knights dropping very early. Monarch, basically a solo operator, I think, at this point, heading even further to the northwest.
Yeah, this is an interesting drop. It's not one that you see from a lot of teams. It's not really a favored position. That far western wall, it's a polarized spot. And on the 8x8 maps now, Miramar and Erangel coming up next for the final 2 matches of the day. With it's going to be a lot more terrain that you have to cover. Those rotations become exponentially longer as these zones will start to pop. And there it is, first phase of game number 2, going to be centering up just north of Los Leones.
That's going to be well, that could be disastrous for a team like Pittsburgh Knight, which has committed to this western wall, because look at the teams that are playing gatekeeper between them and that first phase circles. Teams are still deploying over to Los Leones and getting themselves a slice of the pie that's now been created by this circle.
And here you have your champions of game number 1, Misfits, trying to find that drop location. And no surprises here, Trid. They're going to be going center circle. They didn't find center circle in game number 1 until phase 2, but right off the bat, they're going to be dropping down, and just north of Los Leones is where they have now found themselves.
And we've got Shoguns, Filthy and Rice taking that road down. They're in vehicles with their teammates, just trying to be very mobile and capitalize on the free real estate that's just not been picked up on by other teams. And I think they're going to head down to Valadimar here and potentially Minister Val. Where they choose to stop and where they want to loot on this one is anyone's guess at this point.
Certainly is anyone's guess. Los Leones wide open for the taking. We've seen Los Leones be a town that's big enough for multiple teams to loot inside comfortably without crossing into enemy lines and facing off against some enemy combat. But Misfits continue on. Pyra and the rest of the crew on this trek, trying to reunite safely. That is the name of the game. And they're going to be cutting into Los Leones right now. A city all to themselves. Trid, they're going to be loving it.
Play central. Just stick to the same strategy they had in Vikendi. Let the teams come to them. And like I said, it's an abundant city. There's so much space. There's so much loot to be taken in Los Leones that if Misfits get here early and start claiming it all, then they're in a great position to just camp and make these teams pay the toll to come into their city.
Exactly right. There's an old saying here in North America, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And Misfits are going to be doing exactly that. Playing it very passively. They're going to be pushing off as much as possible and just trying to keep that pressure up on those centralized locations.
I will not sit here and allow you to claim that as an American expression.
Nope,
that is a global one. We have that in the UK, good sir.
It has been claimed for North America by Esquire. Looking here at Nova, we didn't spot them in game number 1 until about mid-game, but now we see them right off the bat. They are going to be, I believe, just looting up in their heart's content just south of El Pozo for right now. They are going to have to make that transition, and Trid, you also kind of alluded to it earlier on. Pittsburgh Knights, they're going to have to come through that same location on that same rotation path unless they divert all the way to the south in favor of an extremely long rotation.
Well, depending on what they want to do here, because Shoguns have gone for a 2-2 split, and they've got Filthy down in the south in Valadimar, but you've got Pittsburgh Knights. They may actually go through Yoda in that second contingent of Shoguns and take a 4v2 engagement if they can regroup in time and start making their way down. But I haven't seen any of Pittsburgh Knights in any semblance of a vehicle, so this is looking really dire if they have to make that long rotation into that next circle with no added mobility.
Yeah, they're very spread out as well. That's exactly what you have to do when you land on that far western side, that far western wall. But now we pop over here to the far east. It is going to be Blinded by Wind, dangerously nearby to some of the members of F6. Baba and the crew far off on the northern side of this Impala town, but they are kind of split off. It looks like the members of Blinded by Wind have cut off 2 of the members of this squad, and well, you got to be careful. How are they going to be able to reunite with their teammates? They're going to have to wrap around that far eastern flank of Impala to get there.
Sun Tzu's The Art of War. I don't know if he was the one who quoted it, but that's an old technique. Divide and conquer. That's exactly what's being done here. As it looks like we're going to see, it looks like it's serial killers, or silent killers, sorry. Maybe they will be serial killers later on in the series, but silent killers moving on into the territory that's just being occupied already by that 2-2 split coming in from Shoguns. It could be quite dangerous for them in that southwest portion of the map.
I believe we just had our first knock of game number 2 as well. I think a member of Silent Killers was actually taken down, hasn't been flushed out yet, so all 64 players of all 16 teams still remaining at this stage in the game, but we might see that quickly change here in the next few seconds. Blinded by Wind continues to loot up in this Impala area, but make no mistake, they know that there are strangers in the town with them.
Very aware of that fact as F6 looking to take that position and try and go for this contest. They obviously want to keep as many sightlines open, potentially get a flank here. Rice just easily going to find the first knock and take down those members of that team. And there you go. That's Silent Killers. Miraz just been taken out. Rice getting the kill confirmed there. So that clash that's happening in the southwest portion of the map already paying dividends for Silent Killers.
Yeah, they're already starting to at least feel the hurt from this Miramar map.
He's not going to see him. Has he seen him? Does he know?
Hasn't seen him yet. He's going to be bleeding out right there. Filthy has not spotted him out just yet, but Shoguns continues to try to frag out, trying to get some damage, some pressure applied to the other members of the Silent Killers. And Will Mitz has been spotted out. Filthy turns around with the M416, one of the more favored weapons, Trid, in this PUBG Mobile scene, and Will sprays him down, gets the flush, gets the 1 point.
This could be really bad for Shoguns, though. They got Ace coming in and paying them a visit. They're about to feel a lot of hurt here. As you know, they've already impacted some hurt. Silent Killers down to 2 members already. As Ace then finding Pittsburgh Knights Wi-Fi, and Rolex even being dropped down by Unnamed, and Lights Out trying to return the engagement. Unnamed will be dropping down Raven as Bill's finally finished off by Lucifer. This is that Lights Out coming in here. Look at the frags. They're fighting up against Unnamed, just hiding behind that building here. Want to try and provide covering fire for Rolex so they can't go in and get the kill confirmed, and just keeping them at bay as they're trying to get to their fallen comrade.
Here it is, a battle for the heart of Miramar. Picado, the favorite city, the most notorious city on this desert map, is a hotbed of destruction as Lights Out continues to frag out against some of the members of Unnamed. Able to get a nice knock and a flush on the first floor. Lucifer continues to wrap around these apartments, trying to spot out the enemies that have encroached on their territory, listening for those footsteps.
They got 2 down at the moment. Lucifer's going to go in for the res, bring back Rollers to the fight, but that's a push coming in immediately by Unnamed. They're trying to fight Seagut. Just going to get knocked there as it's Miski to bring it in, and we'll get the kill confirmed. 3 members down for Lights Out, and that's 1 kill confirmed right now. Rolex is back in the play, though, but he needs to heal up before he can do anything, otherwise he's just going to drop. Nice spray fire coming in, 1 able to get confirmed. Look at his flank coming in. He's just going to come in from the side of them, hits him from the side. Lucifer going down, Unnamed, finding himself that kill as Rolex gets the kill confirmed, and again, Lights Out going out earlier than expected.
Yeah, way earlier than expected, Trid. I think most fans out there at the PUBG Mobile scene are saying, guys, what's going on with Lights Out? This isn't the squad that we are used to seeing in terms of the performance. But on the flip side of that, Unnamed with a huge claim of Picado. This might have been a little territorial fight right now. You might see a stake to Picado being claimed as Unnamed will continue on in this match with 2 alive. They lost a lot in the process, though. You have to worry about how they're going to be able to continue on in game number 2.
Great, you got Picado. How do you keep Picado? If teams are going to come through here, you're 2 members down. You're the likes of Nova and HQA maybe taking a pass through Picado to get to the center of the circle, and if that happens, oh boy, I do not want to be Unnamed in that instance.
Will Misfits Gaming still in this Los Leones area. They have had it all to themselves the entirety so far of game number 1, and with so much loot, Trid, they're going to be incredibly happy. I mean, you can tell Uneven just cruising around in his Bronco, just feeling it out. He's living life.
Taking it easy, got the stereo on full volume, blasting those tunes. He's trying to look, he's on the lookout for trouble. He's patrolling Los Leones and looking to see if anyone's going to try and invade their territories. Cream, Wildcard, Totality, they're all in the area. Even F6 is starting to come in from the east. This could really heat up in this central location as the circle are just forcing them closer and closer to Los Leones.
Exactly. Phase number 2 in full effect as the kill feed continues to light up. Looks like Cream is going to be taking some casualties from Wildcard Gaming as Misfits continues to just loot up this area. And here we are, Cream, Kira in the bus trying to get over to Karma in whatever way he can. He's got to do something. I mean, Trid, you got to respect the move. He quickly got to his teammate Karma to pick up the res. They safely will be able to pick this up. They've got the Defilade to hide behind and hopefully reset off this engagement. But quickly coming up from the south, it's going to be the members of this squad. They're going to be aggressively approaching. Wildcard wants blood, and they smell
There he
it.
is. He's just found him nice and easy, taking the aggression, and he's just left out to die here. Wants to get that final kill there, finish off Cream, and going to be knocking down that what could be that final member. I believe Cream didn't go for a split, so that might be them just being eliminated from the fight altogether.
Certainly Wildcard off of those knocks, playing it aggressively just like they should when they know they possess the skills here in PUBG Mobile. And Will, when they saw the res, when they saw the bus just soar out towards the res, they knew that was their opportunity. They had a small window, and boy, did they capitalize.
Acer and the rest of Misfits really fortifying this eastern portion of Los Leones. They know that's where the attention's coming in. They've spotted out F6 looking to claim that territory, and they're going to put up a wall of bodies to stop them from getting in.
Incredibly important now. Misfits on the far eastern side of Los Leones, this wide open hillside that Sixless from Space Station Gaming and the rest of his crew are trying to traverse. It's only a matter of time before F6 gets spotted out by one of these squads, and it's going to be the Misfits off to the west.
And they've got such an advantage here. They've got terrain to play around, and it's going to be F6 getting pincered by these two squads, and Misfits, they just have the luxury of time. They're going for a boost here, potentially, just standing on top of him. He's in a little bit of danger, I think. He does not want to be out there and exposed for that long when there are two teams in the area that could be firing down bullets.
Exactly. That was that player saying, hey, I'm stuck. Please move. I need to get back into safety. But the shots did come out, yes, indeed, on top of F6, and that gave Space Station Gaming the indication that, hey, maybe we want to make a safer rotation inside of Los Leones. We saw them wrap down to the south after those shots came out. But Perkasas from Misfits, he's not giving up. He knows he's got a player from F6 pinned down there behind the truck, and will F2 have any luck in getting out of there?
He's just being cut off. They're trying to just starve him and cut him from resources. They're just being left. F6 are gone for now. They've just split as Baba and his colleague, they're just going to go up to the northeast as Sixless just trying to get eyes on Misfits and contest them. Another engagement we could see, actually, is Error being picked off by Wildcard, but it's actually Filthy finding Jagger. We're going to lose out on Silent Killers as Felix is just going to be taken out as well. Look at the shots coming in from Helmet. Happy with those happy feet, trying to dodge away the bullets. They're coming in with the auto fire, and eventually he has to go down here. F6 just being picked off from safety is Happy. Going to have that kill confirmed. Sixless the one, adding a frag and another point to his team's name.
There's only so many zigs and zags you can do while you're running to try to avoid a hailstorm of bullets, and however much he did try, he was not able to do so. But now Space Station Gaming, with those shots from atop the hill, have given away their positioning to the members of Misfits still inside on that eastern side of Los Leones. And with those 4 times on the Mini 14, certainly Perkasas is going to be looking to pick up some kills.
Misfits are so preoccupied with that eastern side of Los Leones, they're giving up the western territory to Nova. They're knocking on that next circle, and they're able to push into the city behind them. If Misfits aren't keeping tabs on their 6, they could find themselves being pincered by 2 of our most favored teams here, and it's not a position you want to be in, as now you see Nova moving in, and Misfits starting to spread out a little bit further. They're taking that one member just to keep an eye on the backside, make sure they don't get flanked here. Look at this fast rotation coming in from Nova with the vehicles. They're just speeding straight through Los Leones. They're not going to contest the territory. They want to go more central. Misfits out for blood, though, taking a few shots, unable to find anything from it.
Yeah, so Misfits have set up in a compound, all kind of spread out, but close enough to provide that support to one another should they need to. All other teams, though, at least Nova in particular, going to be bombing it through Los Leones. This phase number 3, does not necessarily favor Los Leones. It favors the eastern side, those hills, those far open areas, but the shots are erupting as Space Station Gaming has now found themselves engaged with another team. Nova rolling straight through Los Leones and right into the hillside that SSG is holding.
They're just hiding up in those mountains, raining down fire, and they're using Beowulf as bait. They're going to get the kill confirmed from behind the vehicle. As we're seeing that Sam may be in trouble as well. He's going down very low. Epic trying to come in here with the vehicle and potentially get himself out. But he's actually split off with the rest of Nova. He's working as a solo operator to the west of Los Leones, and he may be the last life if the rest of Nova gets picked off here.
Yeah, he was on his own, and that might be the saving grace, the insurance policy for Nova as you kind of come into this mid-game scenario here on Miramar. But Space Station Gaming continues to hold on to this high ground, a very strategical move from this SSG squad, one of the top teams I think we could say in previous PUBG Mobile history. But what are they going to be able to pull off here? Certainly we saw a tough performance from them in game number 1. They're looking to make big waves here in game number 2.
Just the control they're able to exert on this hotly contested area of the map by having this high ground is unreal. It's Miski going to go down to an explosive. Misfits clearing out that vehicle as they tried to find themselves some safety in Los Leones, but unfortunately they were all out of it. They sold out of that long ago as they're taking shots at Sin. Rice going to go down here, dying to the play zone, so that's going to be Shoguns, unfortunately, getting themselves caught out and losing another member as Sin trying to take cover. Misfits can't commit the resources to go and rush that. They can only take pop shots and hopefully not receive fire themselves.
So comparing this to what we saw in game number 1, at this stage in the game, it's been a bit of a deadlier match than we saw on Vikendi, and that's no surprise here. Those hills, those rotations that have to be made, certainly can put teams in some awkward scenarios that they're not used to practicing on or not used to working their way out of. As we see the blue zone shrinking, though, on phase number 3, a next shrink will be coming up very shortly, and unnamed Sin, he's just going to be holding out. He felt the pressure being applied from the Misfits, and he's likely not going to be able to call in his teammates either. He doesn't want to put them in danger.
One thing we haven't really checked on at all this game, I don't think, is Totality. They're over there to the far east. They've got a nice bit of territory carved up for no one's around. But now, unfortunately, the way this game works, that's all going to change. Next circle coming in just northeast of Los Leones. And I still think Space Station Gaming can abuse this high ground and exert pressure into this next phase.
Yeah, a lot of interesting terrain going to be implicated in this. The area just north of that southern part of Los Leones has some interesting hillsides that can be utilized to possibly counter what Space Station Gaming is doing here. But Misfits continue to posture themselves. They're going to be on the southwestern side of this next zone. They don't have to make rotations, but one member, Sin, still has to push up from that southern spot.
Totality getting very close to Space Station Gaming's position. They need to be aware of this coming in from the outside. I don't think they had that contestation earlier. The shot's going to be opened up now. Playzone will finally claim Pittsburgh Knights 7, removing them from the fight. And now they're looking for the angle. Sickless aware. They can hear the gunfire. They need to turn around and look at fighting this off. They start opening it up. Get a spray down. Drops him down to low health. Won't secure the kill just yet. Triggs down the firing lines. Gets dropped immediately. What aim from Sickless to pull that off.
Too risky of a peek coming out from Totality, and it is completely exploited by the members of Space Station Gaming. They saw the opportunity, and they capitalized on it, and now they've got a firm hold on the other members of Totality, riding the edge now, likely going to have to move here in phase number 5 coming up next. But Lord Fudo, is going to be picking up the res, able to execute that. Totality keeps all 4 members alive, but certainly losing in the war of attrition.
They're able to recover from that one. Ace was looking for a third party, but the engagement's all over now. They might have to take a straight up 1v1 as they're firing grenades up into that high ground, trying to displace Space Station Gaming, but so far, they're not able to sink any of their battleships, and now they're just going to open it up as Ace just taking our casualties here. JBP, Dilly, already been knocked. Looking for the flush, they go for Pro DJ. Takes a little bit of return fire onto Angry, but he's still up on this one. Wants to go for the nade. Not certain of position, but he knows where Pro DJ is. He needs to interrupt that revive that's coming in by Shakes. He might be able to get him up here as Dilly will get knocked by Juicy, and that kill has now been confirmed. JBP will be saved by Ace, but they're in a dire position here, Esquire.
Exactly, especially with Space Station Gaming approaching Helmet, trying to get just above where the members of Polar Ace Esports have postured themselves. They're not going to be spotted out just yet, and Space Station Gaming playing this pretty safely, continuing to toss nades, not trying to overpeak and get knocked far away from their opponents, but all members of Polar Ace are taking damage. You can see them going so low, but here comes the third-party action as well. Another team going to be putting some shots on the Space Station Gaming, sending Helmet right back into cover.
It's the same problem that Blinded by Win had. They wounded Totality. They did not finish them off, and now they have to worry about this other angle of fire coming in because they're now sandwiched between Ace Gaming as well as Totality. They do have the high ground advantage work for them. They are starting to obscure vision with smokes and try and control the information as they're spraying down to deny those sight lines and really keep control of this one. Molotov going to be thrown up there. Dodger actually taking out someone from Nova. Sam going being knocked down for the time being. Want to go for the kill confirmed as the spray comes in from Pro DJ. Unable to get it. Space Station Gaming playing really well and abusing the terrain and high ground right now.
I got to give good credit to Pro DJ right there. A good zoning Molotov, pushing off the members of Space Station from that easy grenade range where they were essentially just lobbing them on top of the members of Polar Ace Esports. But I fear for Space Station Gaming right now because Sickless is so far pushed up north from the other 3 teammates on the Space Station Gaming squad. What kind of support can he give them when the members of Polar Ace are now pushing up with the blue zone on their back?
The hands just being forced entirely here. They have to move up here and start trying to contest them. Polar Ace Esports maybe in a little bit of difficulty as they press onto Space Station Gaming's territory. There's Lord Fudo taking the shots. Edwin, well, he's going to fight back, and Lord Fudo going to be knocked down. You've got 2 members hiding behind the same tree. They want to finish him off, but he stays alive with very little HP. I don't know if Totality can go for the res here as they try and return fire onto Edwin. He's healed himself up, gets himself a knock. Edwin going to have that kill confirmed, but they lost Fudo in the process.
That they did, and it seemed like they were maybe thinking that Nova had more players there. We had Dodger and Triggs hiding behind that tree, not peeking the wide open player from Nova, but finally they did find the kill. They found their mark, and they're able to pick up that kill point, but pushing up, do they still know that enemy threats lie on that high ground? Sickless, he's not moved from this position. He's soaked up so much information on the team sort of posturing themselves on this far eastern side, and with this hardship that we saw Trid, well, they're all going to have to be making moves.
Easy pickup onto Barber, and that's going to force F6 to close ranks, go for the res, buy some time for Space Station Gaming to deal with the aggressors coming on their 6. You've got, like we said, you still got yourselves that team, Ace Gaming, with the fight as they look for sprays. Misfits now piping back up. They were a little bit quiet for the last 5 to 10 minutes, but now they realize they may have to deal with that threat. Space Station Gaming taking a lot of fire. The spray's coming in uneven. We'll get the knock onto Juicy. And that's going to be dangerous here for Space Station Gaming to try and claim it. The molly, the smokes are there to try and obscure the vision. So Arc will take a casualty. That's going to be a cleanup from F6, finding kills of their own, and they're on their own last limbs. Juicy now going to be having a little bit of problem here. Totality is going to be losing Dodger as well. Handsom's going to get dropped. Uneven still keeping the pressure on Space Station Gaming as Wildcard's even picking up F6 and Triggs just getting drops. They're all trying to move in to Lost Leonas, and the circles just come back to Misfits again, Esquire. And this is where they start to cash in those chips.
Yeah, you really hate to see it. Space Station Gaming in such a dominant position the entirety of this game, getting shifted out of the circle and now the wide open hill that they had to go down. You got to applaud their effort in throwing out those smokes, trying to create a wall of concealment for them to traverse down that hill into safety. Two of their members were able to make it. Helmet and Angry, they still have to get sixless down the hill. They lost one player, but they're not out of the running just yet, as we have 12 teams remaining just past the 21-minute mark of game number 2.
And they're just going to have to fight for this territory just to the east of Lost Leonas as the circle's going to start moving in closer and closer, and it's really going to make things dangerous for them as we're concluding what is Phase 5.
Yeah, and this is sort of an interesting thing about this circle. The road going through Lost Leonas splits the circle 50-50. Where are you going to be hedging your bets as a team? Are you going to be going to the north, or are you going to be going to the south? A fairly even split between these teams, but if the circle shifts one way, you might see a lot of teams trying to fight through that wide open area trying to get to safety.
If I'm every other team, I'm going where Misfits isn't. I'm going to that north side of the map, and it might be a little bit more popular. Again, Misfits, the only team that's still in the circle.
Literally, the only team in the circle. You see the shift of phase number 5, and it still implicates that road. It's about 60-40 now in favor of the southern side of Lost Leonas. But like you said, Trid, Misfits has no care in the world other than looking around and trying to frag out all the other opponents on the map, trying to enter into this phase. And will they do it? Uneven spots out. Helmet of Space Station Gaming quickly takes him down with the M416, and now has to worry about Angry and Sixless coming in from the east.
I bet he wish he had a helmet. That headshot just absolutely knocking him as Sixless, then going to be knocked from the side from Polar Ace Gaming. This pincer coming in on Space Station, unable to clean up. Angry, taking a lot of damage as he moves over into cover. Wants to avoid this crossfire coming in from both of these teams, as hopefully bring their members back in and keep that third member alive in the engagement. Sixless just bowing down, just trying to stay in cover, keep himself alive. It's all on Angry to keep this team in the game right now. Sixless kill confirmed over by Pro DJ. And you're going to have Monarch even taking out Zeus, get kills of their own. Proto Ace Gaming going for the rush onto Angry. He's going to stay alive for now, try and fight back, but even getting a kill onto Pro DJ. It's going to be Illusions being dropped down by Epic. Hot Jukes coming in there, getting the kill on Stephen, and Zeus just taking cover.
Yeah, the kill feed absolutely lighting up, certainly way past the boiling point of Miramar. Lost Leonas becoming a hotbed of destruction as Misfits continues to hold on to this building. They haven't left for the last 20 minutes or so, Trid, and they have no plans on leaving anytime soon, but here it comes, Polar Ace Esports inside of the garage building.
They didn't find
Angry! Angry took down almost the entirety of Polar Ace Esports, trying to aggress on top of them, and you gotta love it, but here comes another team coming in. It's gonna be F6 trying to stop Angry. He's not able to do it, and Angry takes down another squad.
Unbelievable scenes. They're just abusing the sightlines, but he can't abuse the sightlines of an even. He knows exactly where he is. He peeked, confirms that fact that he's in the sightlines, and if he could just hold his nerve here, there's going to be another kill for Misfits. Gets the spray down, unable to finish it off. But Acer, he's going to pop off again as he finds Reptile in the background. Angry, just trying to move closer and closer to this building while staying in cover and out of the sight of this sniper that is uneven.
And here comes the frag grenades, though, from Misfits. They know that Angry is on that wall. If they can get a nicely placed and nicely cooked nade right up on top of his head, it will all be over for Space Station Gaming at that point. But you have to applaud Angry for what he was able to do there, not just the kills, but also able to make it to hard cover without utilizing any smokes.
Look at this angle that Monarch's got. Pittsburgh Knights coming in. Wildcard completely caught off guard. He's going to drop down Rain and Ranger. Unbelievable. Monarch finding the perfect play here to get into this fight and start making damage.
And that's one of the tricky parts about this endgame circle that we're seeing here on Miramar. Lost Leonas has so many different levels of terrain that so many different approaches can be had on your team. The lines of sight can be plenty. You can find yourself being taken down from an opponent you never saw coming.
Misfits still have control of that circle. It's just working towards him. Acer being that forward guy to go in there and take new territory for them to guarantee they have an advantageous position in these final circles. And now you just got to have Perkassas and Uneven move forward with Pyra into those buildings and take control. They need to cut off Sin, who's still lingering around, but you've also got Chris from Silent Killers still lingering around there as a solo operator. There's quite a few of those in this final circle, but you're looking towards the likes of Error and you've got yourselves Misfits. There are still those complete squads as we come down to the final moments of this game.
2 or 3 teams rather that I'm going to be looking at specifically here, Trader. Up to the north, you've got Air, you've got HQA, as well as Monarch of the Pittsburgh Knights, and they have to make that wide open transition to get to safety. Yi-Fi going to be able to quickly spray down, but he is going to be returned on, traded out immediately as Hoonsy tries to pick him up. He's got the safety of the hard cover, but the blue will be on his back in just a few seconds. This is the window of opportunity for Air to cross that wide open terrain, and they've done so almost effectively.
They have to be conscious of where Misfits are. Now opening up on the Swift, easily done by Pyra. Need to be careful, they can't show themselves around the wall. He's got a good sightline here. They don't know where to look for the damage, but actually Pyra's just been flanked off here by that solo operator. Sin has come back to bite Misfits Gaming after he was bullied so early on into the play and lost Leonis.
And that's the one bad part about being spread out in those solo positions like Misfits have been doing. It's easy for a solo player to quickly catch you off guard and take down one of your strong forces on your team. Luckily for Misfits, though, they were spread, and as such, they have 3 remaining here in the final stages of this game. 4 teams remain, 8 players alive, certainly favoring Misfits if you're looking at numbers, but now HQA has to make that cross, and they're going to be having Hot Jukes in Air looking right at them.
Ife will go down to the play zone. That ends HQA's run, but he got them to a sizable position. Top 3 now, unnamed, Misfits, and you've got yourselves, of course, Error, who have decided to show up on Miramar. Taking a few shots already. Sin shouldn't be taking fights here. He needs to lay low and hopefully try and third-party himself a victory. He's not going to win as he just takes some fire onto Louise. And the rest of the movements coming in, they're just cowering behind that crate to keep him alive. But Ace has found Hot Jukes with the knock. 2 members down. This is game time for Misfits to try and win out a second map in a row.
Certainly, they've already achieved so much with their consistency. Top 3 secured with, I believe, 5 or 6 kills going into this fight. But now they are pushing aggressively, trying to spot out Sin in whatever way they can. The smoke's going to be coming out, and now they're aggressively pushing in. They're going to be catching and trying to vault, and that's all she wrote, and quickly ended thereafter. Misfits coming in with another huge W to end out game number 2.
I don't know what it is about Misfits. Have they found the script we've got? Are they reading where these circles are going to be? That's 2 games in a row where they've just been in the perfect position, and then they followed up with the correct moves to stay in that circle and just completely dominate the map. It was looking a little bit shaky with Space Station Gaming taking control of the high ground from the outside, but then the circle swung back in their favor, and when those rotations came in, there were too many bogeys around Space Station Gaming to make that safe movement, and they were punished for it.
Absolutely punished for it. A huge game, though. Got to give credit, though. We had 2 teams show up in the top 3 that we hadn't seen in game number 1. Air, zero kills to their name, but hey, we did talk about it. Placement points are so weighted here in this tournament that it's not a bad pickup for them. They're going to have to get points, and we'll get them that way.
And Sin, coming back to bite him, it bit Misfits in the bum, but they were able to recover from it eventually. But guys, don't go anywhere. We're going to go to a quick break. We come back, we're going to start moving on to Erangel.
welcome back to the 2019 PUBG Mobile Club Open. My name is Esquire, joined here by Trid. We've had an incredible set of 2 games to kick off day 1 of this event, but Trid, we've got 2 more to go.
Got 2 more to go, and the story of the day so far has to be Misfits Gaming back-to-back winners. It doesn't seem to matter. They can operate at the coldest of temperatures and the warmest as they move on to Miramar. Can they keep their cool on the, say, damp Erangel? It's not,
yes.
Kind of like muggy. Almost.
I think there's a lot of things that we can say about Misfits, not just the back-to-back wins, the back-to-back double-digit kill counts. I mean, these guys are playing very dominantly, and yes, okay, we have to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the fact that Misfits have been gifted the circle many times in the first 2 games. Will it continue? Will we see how Misfits operates when they don't get the circle? Are they able to keep up that performance? I think that's what all of our eyes are going to be on as we transition into Erangel, the map that we expect everyone to know like the back of their hands.
We would look a little bit more about Miramar as well. Misfits, yes, you're right in saying that we did see them gifted a few circles, but they're playing it so well. When they did have to make those rotations, they sent Acer out, which he's appearing to be one of the best fraggers, it appears. Right. He's consistently getting the kills. Send him in nice and early as your point man. Clear out that territory, and then you have that safe harbor for your teammates to migrate into, so you can still retain central circle control. These guys don't want to be missing out. They have perpetual FOMO. They just want to be constantly at the center of attention, and they're willing to go aggressive to maintain that territory. That's what's so good about Misfits so far, is that they are willing to go aggressive to keep control of the game.
Yes, and that's a very important point that you bring up, Trid. You can be gifted the circle as much as you want, but you have to play off of it. You have to execute your plan accordingly, because center circle, it's a great spot to be in. You don't have to make rotations, but so many teams are going to be eyeing that position, and if you can't keep that pressure up, like Misfits has done time after time again, no team has really been able to close that buffer zone gap, that dead zone, that no man's land, that literally no man wants to find themselves stuck in against Misfits. So hopefully they keep it up here in Erangel. Certainly all eyes on Misfits.
I think some adaptations we need to see, because not once, but twice, we've seen an instance where Space Station Gaming has been caught off guard by just simply not finishing off, playing with their food a little bit too much, and it's come back to bite them. Yes, it was Misfits that put the last nail in the coffin when we were looking at Miramar, but they lost too many members because they just had so much pressure coming from all angles, because they're unable to deter the North American F6, as well as Polar Ace Esports, who were able to get that position behind them and maintain a lot of resources, a lot of attention, and really hinder their mobility if they were looking to migrate early. And I think we need to start seeing them potentially go aggressive and maybe finish off some of these kills and some of these knocks they're getting, because right now it's not working out for them.
No, it really isn't, but we have to talk about another part of Space Station Gaming's, I guess, moments there on Miramar's 6th list. The champion of that squad, he knew that he had to do something. He had no other teammates alive, and he took out 2 entire, well, almost entire squads, right? A solo player from one team and then about 3 players from another team. That's points, Trid. I mean, that's points that they weren't getting from placements that they had to make up somehow, so you have to applaud them recognizing that fact.
Yeah, able to hide behind that box and just wait. I think, you watched it? The panic ensued. They walked into the room, they were like, where is he?
And quick spin.
Just going in with a nice little firing arc. You didn't check all of your corners, though, because you weren't paying attention to the boxes, and then you look behind it, Sixless then pops out with the quick spray down, gets himself a couple of kills there, and like I said, credit to him to keep his team in this contention of being in the upper echelons, because like I said, Vikendi was kind of disappointing for them. Miramar, better, but that's because of clutch plays from Sixless, and while it's good to have that as an option, you don't want to be relying on a solo player popping off. You want to be doing it as a team, but just for consistency, right?
I mean, exactly right. Kings of consistency so far, Misfits continuing on, but I think we would be remiss if we did not mention our teams in 2nd and 3rd place from that game, Error and Unnamed. I mean, you got to give it up for these 2 teams having tough performances in game number 1, switched it over to the desert, and although didn't come up with those massive kill counts that Misfits has been putting it up, they got the placement points, and that's where the whopping amount of the points comes from.
I believe it was Sin who ended up finishing 2nd, right? So if you think about that, that's kind of insane, because how early on into that matchup did we see Sin down to a solo operator being bullied by Misfits, and then he was able to hide out, take the fights when he needed to, and he was just playing spoiler even to Misfits. He knocked down Pyro, took him out of the fight, and made him really think twice, closed ranks, but ultimately came back to bite him.
Yeah, came back to bite him, but hey, did pick up that 2nd place. So huge for them, but that's going to put game number 2 in the books. We're now transitioning over to the 2 Erangel matches to end out the evening, end out the day. Day number 1, and how exciting it has been. But Trid, let's pop over to the battlegrounds. The plane on Erangel is in the air with all of our players on board.
Going to be heading down from the northwest corner of the map, looking to head towards Millie. And I've seen a lot of people talking about Millie could be the potential drop zone for Misfits Gaming, but like we keep talking about, in Week 1 in particular, I think we're going to see a lot of teams that may be clashing with territory because people haven't really staked a definite claim on where they're going to be dropping. And when you've got a wide open traversal over particularly the western portion of this map, your territories like military base could be a good option here for a couple of teams to drop.
Yeah, you never know where it's going to be exactly prime. I mean, a lot of teams try to stay around center of Erangel, but it doesn't always work out that way. We are seeing Misfits go to that South George, North George area. Looks like Pyra going to be favoring the northern side of the river leading out of Yasnaya. He saw Cream landing in South George, so pulling off of that almost entirely.
I need to see the map to see where the rest of Misfits is. I don't think necessarily they are all with him, or they are contained actually
kind
in there.
Sprinkled out there, but a wide split in between those.
Of course,
those
want to
members,
try and make use of as much space as possible, but they're actually giving over military base control to Richie. He's the only person landing on that island by himself, being a bit of a castaway as he wants to take all that loot for himself.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, generally in this formation, when you see a team like Totality go military base, you want 3 of your members at the very most down on the base, actually looting a solo member, looting up near the bridge, trying to make sure, get that information that no other teams are crossing or possibly setting up a bridge camp. But phase number 1 is popped. It's going to be smack dab in the center of Erangel, and all of these teams should know the rotation paths that they need to take.
This is a map that's going to be very familiar to a lot of players. This is the classic PUBG map, the one they've had the most time with. Wildcard just going to jump into the vehicle, into the Darcy. I want to get themselves out of the fight because you can already see Illusions taking a couple of shots, and I don't think they've got the loot to even try and contest this one.
Yeah, lights out. We're also in Watertown, so certainly get out of Dodge, get over to Razak, where there are not going to be any enemies contesting that area, and get looted up to your heart's content. But let's pop over to now the heart of Erangel. It's going to be none other than Pachinki. Everyone knows this city, Trid. Everyone loves it, but only one team can reign supreme as the kings of Pachinki, and Unnamed is trying to do just that, facing off against some of the members of Shoguns. Will they be able to fight off against this east meets west territory here in Pachinki?
And the pill will divide them across that road as the rest of Shoguns are moving out into the southeast side of Pachinki, and I think they're going to vacate. They may end up giving this territory over to the rest of Unnamed because they're starting to take more and more control as they move that blue wave further east and start taking out members of Shoguns, just removing them and clearing them out of the house. Update on what's happening in military base. Totality is actually sharing that territory now with F6.
Yeah, interesting to see that. You didn't expect 2 teams to land there. They were parachuting next to each other, definitely scouting out where the other team was going. Totality landed down on military first, and F6 saw the opportunity to land thereafter, and we might see a bit of a skirmish, maybe in military proper base and the actual base itself, or possibly when these teams try to make those rotations, maybe favoring that far western bridge.
I think the rest of Hot Jukes and the rest of his crew and Era, they're all by themselves on the eastern side as they're moving past just south of Shelter and to the east of, just to the east of Shelter, moving on towards Prison. I actually think they've got the territory themselves as they move around there. And Wildcard are heading in that general direction. They might actually be surprised when someone starts fighting back and they head over towards the same territory.
Popping over here to the prison area, it's going to be none other than Hot Jukes and the rest of Team Error looting up to their heart's content. I believe they have one other member of this squad in that area, and they're going to be spread out, but shots now ringing out in Pachinki as the solo member left in this town from Shogun has been spotted out. Rice taken down to about 40% HP by the Scar of Bill.
He wants to try and get himself out here, but if he shows, he's going to have so many of these vultures looking to scrap his corpse. If he's not careful, he's going to get dropped down as he exposed himself in the sightlines. Miski trying to find the right position, even throwing out a smoke there. Just try and cut off sightlines and maybe act as a decoy, kind of deceive him, bait him out, think that it's going to be a safe path, and to take an alternative angle and maybe shoot him off.
It's interesting. Miski playing that very passively, actually, staying in that prone position, not wanting to get up into a crouch or standing position to take those aggressive peeks against a solo member. It's a 4v1 scenario here against Shogun, but Team Unnamed, rather, they're playing this almost too passively, I have to say, Trid.
Do they have the information? That's the most important thing. Do they know that that's a solo player? Because if they've taken a few shots and they haven't seen the rest of Shoguns rotate out of Pachinki, they might assume if they go aggressive here, they're just going to get collapsed on.
Yeah, but they're playing this right, at least in terms of Unnamed. Rice is just trying to hide, trying to hopefully wait until Unnamed forgets about them, and then he can make that exit because the fields of Pachinki are wide open off to the east, and Unnamed is certainly going to be looking that direction, trying to find that exit coming out from the solo of
But that's
Shogun.
the exact same play that Unnamed relied on, though. That's exactly what Sin did on Miramar. He just wanted to lay low. They surely can't fall for a tactic they employ themselves.
Hey, but it happens so often. Take a page out of someone else's book, and, well, it could end up working out for you, like it has at least for Rice. I mean, all things considered, Rice is losing a lot of time. He's not with his teammates. He's not getting that much needed loot. You can see his meds are at an all-time low. 2 bandages, 0 first aids, no med kits. He's got 2 boosts, 1 of each, and that's really not a lot to work off of.
The rest of his team, they're happy to leave him, though. They've all headed south in vehicles, and Rice is left alone in Pachinki. I think he might be trying to hide. I don't think this is about him escaping Pachinki. I'm starting to think that Rice might want to play spoiler to Unnamed and maybe catch one of them off guard.
Yeah, either that or possibly Rice was expecting the members of Unnamed to continue working their way over to the east as they loot through Pachinki. And so I think he's maybe just trying to take these slow steps, trying to get from obstacle to obstacle, or rather cover to cover, to find that safety. As we pop over here to Nova, Sam, a solo member from this squad, has scouted out this compound, possibly calling in his teammates because, hey, all things considered, this is not a bad area to be. A little bit north of Pachinki, pretty much smack dab in the center.
But his team is going to have to go through Pittsburgh Knight, Shoguns, and even Unnamed to get to that position. They're so far away from Sam. That scouting, he's given the information. This is so dangerous for Nova to be able to do anything with it.
Yeah, and as the blue starts to shrink in now on phase number 1, teams continue on those rotation paths, specifically Cream now crossing paths of Lights Out. Lucifer going to be spraying and praying as his teammate Siga able to get the knock on one member of Cream, but they're not going to be giving up just yet. Munoz is going to be bleeding out as well, trying to crawl to safety from that UAZ, but he's not going to be getting anywhere quick as the other members of Cream are approaching from the south.
So dangerous for them now. They have to go in and try and contest against Lights Out, who were just waiting for them in between the crevices of the rocks, picked them off as they drove past. Sam needs to be very careful. He's heard the gunfire. He might want to try and capitalize on this, but more likely try and take cover and just keep his head down. He doesn't want to get caught in that crossfire.
Yeah, I think at the very least, Sam just wants some information, but if he seeks too far for that info,
he is
going
out
to be
here, but
caught
he found
out.
Lucifer. He's taking a few shots, drops him down. 25% HP, wants to try and get himself to safety. He doesn't know how many members of Lights Out are still in the area. Gets to the high ground, goes for the nade, wants to finish him off here. Looking to get out the window, he's cooked it. Wants to let it go, but he's going to cancel out that grenade and try and find another angle as Lucifer recovers his HP and now wants to go for the contest. He's calling him back up from the rest of Lights Out.
But when we just had a peek at Lucifer's armor, his helmet is in the red. It's going to be broken. His vest is on the path to being broken. So can his teammates, Rolex and Siga, provide that necessary backline support that Lucifer so desperately needs? Lucifer, though, going to be pushing in the first floor of the building as Sam hops out. He's going to be caught trying to enter in back into the building. Not going to be able to do it. Lucifer finds the knock in the flush with the AKM.
As soon as he showed himself on the rooftop, they just had an absolute buffet with him. They just started flanking the building. Right, we know exactly where you have to drop down. There's no safety for you. You're in trouble. We're just going to capitalize on this one. So Lucifer and the rest of Lights Out abusing numbers, surrounding their prey, and finishing him off.
Yeah, this is Lights Out turning the tables on their performance in games 1 and 2, telling us, hey, we're Lights Out, and we are here to essentially do that to these other teams on Erangel. Send them Lights Out, send them packing, and rack up as many points as possible as we pop over to the remnants of Cream, Ghetto, and Karma. The only 2 teammates left of this squad, they're going to have to drastically shift that strategy, Trid, if they want to find themselves in those top 3 placements.
Nova and Misfits, they're eyeing up a care package that's just dropped over in that western portion of the map, and I don't know if they're going to be brave enough to try and go for it. Cheto taking over the apartments with the rest of Cream for the time being. They obviously lost their 2 members in that engagement. 2 Lights Out. The 2 squad is still alive, and they're trying to get as much loot as possible to try and tip the scales in their favor.
Blue Zone about to meet the edges of phase number 1. The second shrink of game number 3 is in full effect as it hard shifts over to the far western side off of our previous circle centrality. That's going to be Nova, at least some of the members, trying to chase down that crate dead center. And they're going to have to kind of group up off of this because a lot of teams will be diving. Wildcard certainly going to be making a far transition off of that eastern edge. That mansion area is certainly far out.
Thankfully for F6, they've got a clear path in here. No one's really occupying the southeast apart from blinded by wind, but they're also migrating close to the central and just leaving that territory open for F6 to migrate into themselves. So no contestation coming here. Like I said, I'm more concerned about Wildcard. They're about to hit Team Error.
Yeah, I like Misfits' position right here. The yellows just to the south of where ruins are. Could be such a very strategic position. You're going to see a lot of rotation paths cross through this area. The wide open hills just off to the east of where they currently are certainly could be a hotbed for some frags should teams opt for those pickups. But Wildcard on that transition, a far, far trek for them. That convoy, though, is certainly on its way. 2 of the members entering in, and now 2 more left outside.
Keeping it going with the 2-2 split. Ranger and Illusions, they've dodged out and they've missed Arrow because they're also moving more and more central as Pachinki might be one of the final destinations we see here as Space Station Gaming actually getting closer and closer to collapsing onto Misfits in those yellows.
Looking around here, Nova going to be spotting out some teams in transition. Just to the north of where they are, putting out some poke shots as Misfits continue to hold on to these yellows, but shots are getting dangerously close to them. Space Station Gaming Sixless is rolling over the hills directly towards those yellows, and this is the area that I was talking about, Trid, the area where if Sixless continues on, he's going to be wide open, and Uneven's going to be spotting him, putting out some shots, pressure to be applied, no damage to be connected.
We've had 2 knocks, but no kills confirmed coming in from other engagements around the map. Finally, Mitz also being helped. Silent Killers not looking very good here. That's another member of them that's been knocked here is Juicy. The rest of Space Station Gaming trying to take a position. Shakes will be the first victim of Erangel, I believe, going down here, as the rest of the members are still struggling to survive. Misfits will hold on to yellows, but they know exactly where Space Station are, and now it becomes a bit of a stalemate here. And who wants to take the information, but who wants to risk their head for it?
I mean, Trid, I'm having flashbacks. I'm having deja vu to game number 2. You got SSG up there on the hill in the high ground, MSF, Misfits down here in the low ground looking right at them. If Space Station Gaming gets shifted out by virtue of the circle shrinks that are going to be coming out throughout this game, well, they might find themselves in exactly the same position, and they have to be careful about this. Certainly they have the utility still, haven't popped those smokes, and they've got the defilade to work with for now, but will it continue?
And moving away, they're not actually going to take the engagement. They spotted out, lights out on the hill, making that transition in the vehicles. Going to open up on the UAZs, but won't find anything from it. They're going to move further west as they leave Pachinki and try and find some territory of their own. They're actually taking a north pathing here. They may move closer to Misfits. You don't want to be doing that. Misfits, they've shown that they can take these shots and win the fight, but they're going to path away, head towards that care package, and potentially end up running into the path of the likes of Nova and Team Error.
Here's the thing. PUBG Mobile is a game of trying to whittle down your opponents in whatever way possible. Certainly have the team fights as well, but if you can get some damage onto a vehicle, take it down to half health, well, it makes it a lot easier for another team to come in and drop that squad out. Whatever you can do, you never know if it's going to help you, but you have to take the opportunities at every step of the way. Misfits continues, though, to look over towards SSG. Uneven is keeping a very close watch on the members of Space Station.
Lights out. Now, still in those vehicles, they're just going to have to be careful here. They're actually moving further away from Pittsburgh Knights, but they're taking damage, I believe, here from the shots. Hitting him around, but struggling to get up the hill. May have to just abandon the vehicle. He's moving too slow, and now he has to run for cover behind the trees. Maybe get into another vehicle that his fellow teammates have, but I think they're all left without him now. They're just doing this all on foot.
Yeah, some very far out shots. The biggest loss here for Lights Out is that they don't have that car now. That US is going to be stalled out on the hill, no longer providing them that mobile cover that could be so desperately needed as these teams continue on through the mid-game. Phase number 3 in full effect now, just past that 13-minute mark of game number 3, and everyone is starting to get a little bit more nerves on their mind as they are getting jam-packed close to one another.
Just going to control the high ground for now. There's a lot of teams heading into this area. Silent Killers trying to find some semblance of safety as they just leave Pittsburgh Knights. They're unable to contest that small territory they've claimed for themselves. And everyone's still quite divided for the time being. Everyone's relatively spaced out, and no one's going to want to take some engagement. That is until Blinded by Win getting awfully close to Wildcard Gaming.
Yes, this is something that we haven't seen yet so far in these games. 5 players out, but no team has been eliminated just yet. So lots of casualties going out left and right. We saw Cream lose 2 members. They only have 2 left. But what can Lights Out do here? A lot of action starting to surround themselves, but also Wildcard going to be taking some casualties as Zeus gets knocked down. It is going to be Lights Out coming up with that nice flank from around the backside.
There's just a lot of distance there to try and take that engagement, especially when Blinded by Woods are trying to fight down Wildcard. You got Manny going in for the resurrection to bring Parker back into the fight. The only casualty they've suffered so far, but he's salvageable. He's not completely out of the game yet. And this is just deflated and poured a bucket of water over the entire engagement because now they're concerned about third parties coming into play.
Certainly, and they have to. So many different angles going to be approached. Rain taking a significant amount of damage as he tries to disengage in the Dacia. Able to do so, but losing a lot of life in the process as Blinded by Wind starts to at least try to reset this. They've now owned this hill. They still have to worry about that third party off to the northwest coming from Lights Out, but for all intents and purposes, for right now, they're going to be okay.
Scared them round. They were fretting like an animal. They stood on their hind legs, tried to make themselves as big as possible to scare off this threat, and it's worked for them for the time being. Like I said, there's another Predator around the corner. It's named Lights Out, and they've got eyes on you. You need to be very careful about what you're doing, and I don't think Blinded by Wind actually are 100% certain who's still there, as Memo can take shots on them, and Manny just opening himself up to that gunfire, unable to land the shots. You can forgive him at this distance a little bit with the mobility coming in, but still willing to try and attempt to get that damage out.
Exactly. I mean, the damage might not be connecting, but the pressure is being felt from Blinded by Wind. They're going to be now trying to disengage off of this. They were up on the hill, possibly trying to get some loot. I'm not exactly sure what their thought process was there, but now they have quickly shifted off of that and gotten back behind some deflate, behind some safety, away from the lines of sight of Lights Out. But it's not going to be any easier as we now have our next shift of the circle. Phase number 4 taking us all the way up to the north. And our teams down in the south, Will Trid, they're going to have a hell of a time making their way there.
I'm 100% certain at this point, Misfits Gaming, they know every circle. Yet again, they're in a perfect position to capitalize on it. They've got to deal with Space Station Gaming, who are not far behind them as engagement's coming in here. Blinded by Wind, taking some gunfire, still staying alive. They're all going to load into the same UAZ and try and get themselves into position. But Acer, again, the man to watch. It's Luis taking out one member of HQA, getting the knockdown as they're engaging in the southwest portion of this circle. It's Team Era going up against HQA, and Silent Killers, they may be joining the fight as well.
But the Misfits, yes, they certainly do have some wild game sense. That is true. We'll see if Blinded by Wind has that same game sense to make these safe rotations as they traverse through those fields of Pachinki. Notoriously, some of the deadliest fields in the game, not just on Erangel, because of these bumps that they're going to be going over, sort of these little mud hills that they have to traverse over as the car pops. But that's going to be a member of Cream, I think, in the field. Was that a member of Cream?
It's a member of Cream. Yeah, they're taking the shots.
Certainly trying to pop off there, able to avoid being stopped on. Blinded by Wind does not want to stop in that wide open area, continue on that rotation up to the northeastern corner and make that entry.
They think they're now moving into even more dangerous territory. I think they might be contesting Shoguns here. They go in here as Hot Jukes has been knocked by a grenade coming out by HQA. That engagement keeps intensifying on the western side of the circle. Gunfire being fired at Karma. One of those Cream members, he's got Cheto in the vehicle with him as well. So 2 members of Cream minimum in there. The last surviving 2 as they're trying to get themselves to safety. Louise being taken out here. HQA has popped off on Team Era and they're going in for the kill confirm.
And they're going to be picking them up as well. Wildcard hearing all of these shots, but over here it's going to be Totality facing off against the members of Shogun. The shots will come out. A knock as well, but a trade back on the Fudo as now both teams trying to reset back off of this. Philithy going to be bleeding out as well, but Yoda pops over the hill and secures the flush.
Richie able to stay alive. Last hope left for Totality. Does get a kill here, but he's pinned down. He's in between a new as a vehicle, and his team's approaching from nearly every angle to him. I don't know how long he's going to stay alive as more members of F6 get dropped. Lord Fudo finally going to be dropped down and finally get that kill confirmed as well. Triggs even getting knocked here. There's Cheto just being absolutely eradicated by Lights Out as they take an aggressive path to clear him off at his high ground, and they hopefully claim some loot and some decent territory to transition into the late game.
You hate to see it, but it was almost inevitable when we saw Cheto rolling up onto the hill where Lights Out had been holding. At that stage in the game, it's only a matter of time before Lights Out spins around and takes you down and out, and they did exactly that as all of our other teams are starting to get safe and secure inside of phase number 4. Well, Trid, that's going to change very shortly. It's not going to be so safe and so secure as time goes on. The blue zone shrinking in about 3/4 of the way there. It's about to shrink.
A very quiet Polaris Gaming here as Richie's going to take that engagement, and it's going to be unnamed Bill picking up another kill, clearing out the rest of Totality as he brings Sin back into the game. Manny being a casualty. Space Station Gaming coming back on the map. Rice as he takes out Miski. They're taking the engagement. Look at this across the pathway. It's Shoguns contesting unnamed outside of this church and capitalizing on the 3 knocked members. They've only got 1 surviving and they're going to rush them. They have their information. They're going to go in and just clean house here. It was all looking for Bill to come in and save the day, but he was just a little man who couldn't.
A 4v4 scenario in favor of Shogun, picking up those 4 points and all of that loot. Look at them dipping down into those loot boxes and picking up whatever ammo, whatever utility, whatever possible armor they might need to take into this late game scenario to possibly wind up in first position. 11 teams remaining, 35 players alive as Wildcard spots out a member of an enemy team inside of Pachinki, takes him down and out, and now pops back over to Ranger to secure the res.
Polar Ace, very quiet this game. When it comes to the action, they're just getting themselves in such a terrible position. Wildcard Gaming lost 2, want to go for the res here, keep Ranger and Illusions alive, maybe play for even greater placement. Now, problem we're going to have here is Lights Out Gaming, They're going to have to run past Pittsburgh Knights to get to this circle. Shogun moving in there, but Misfits in there already, contesting away the aggressors that are coming in from all angles. There's Pyra taking shots at HQA. They've already racked up a few kills for themselves this series, so not been a quiet game from them, this attempt on Erangel.
Here's the thing, if I'm watching these or if I'm watching the VODs and I see Misfits in a game in the future, I'm going to get a knock on one of them, I'm going to let them get the res, and I'm following them wherever they go in this game because they have the game sense, like we said. They are getting circle after circle after circle. There's no way to tell where it's going, but somehow this team has picked the right places, but they are having to execute off of this. The yellow is still in full effect here for the Misfits as they look down to the south, where a majority of the teams left in the lobby will be approaching from.
Wildcard just entering that circle now from the southeast. USL Misfits taking some shots. Juicy answering on to Percasas. Gonna knock him now, and he's isolated in that building by himself, in that corner where Space Station is. If Acer has to rotate to go for the res, he opens himself up for Space Station Gaming to just take him out.
And here's the thing, 90% of those windows on those yellow buildings are going to be boarded up, so he doesn't have many entry points to make to try to get the res onto Percasas. But here comes Space Station Gaming. They were able to make it all the way over to this bit of a hillside from that wide open area, but now Helmet has come in. All 4 members of Space Station Gaming are posturing on the defilade, but Misfits, they're not going to let them easily approach like this. They're throwing out the frag grenade pressure, trying to send Space Station Gaming back a little bit or possibly even get some knocks.
Great reaction to that. That could have gone horribly wrong for Misfits Gaming. Ark's going to take out Dex. You got Yefei on this high ground, raining down on Nova. Beowulf is in the back, going down low. It's going to be Rice cleaned up by Parker. Is Yefei now going to struggle for this one? Finally going to close up that kill onto Rice and onto Dex. That Shogun's going down as Yefei going to be trying to keep these vehicles alive, but unfortunately Nova, they have other ideas. They're going to keep rattling away from them, cut down the mobility, but they do get the cover from it. That's the most important part.
And here's the thing, a smart play from HQA actually exploding 2 of those vehicles, right? They didn't want those ticking time bombs to be around. They want to be able to seek this cover and not take damage from any pending explosions that could come out by enemy fire hitting on the cars. Now they've got a beautiful car fort to hide behind, a solid position on what otherwise would be an open hillside would they not have those vehicles. But here it is, the next shrink, circle number 5 has popped. It's going to be shifting over a little bit to the east of our previous circle centrality. Not too detrimental for any teams, as Misfits still going to find themselves on the northern side of the circle.
And yet again, it's Misfits and Space Station Gaming in contestation in that confined space that they have done all game, going at it. And Nova just trying to stay alive. It's a 4v2 situation for them, but even though they're small in numbers, they are keeping the pressure on HQA. They're unable to get the kill, and they're locking him down as Ranger will be taken out by Misfits. They're now dealing with that engaging from Wildcards coming into the next fight. So Ranger going to be dropped down. Qang going down for HQA. It's Pittsburgh Knights coming in from the backside to take out Hunzi as well. This is terrible for HQA. As another one gets dropped. They're not out of it yet. They're relying on Z-Fan to come back in and save the day. He's trying to fire out smokes, fire out frags, whatever he can. But speaking of frags, Monarch picks up the kill on the Hunzi. Illusions then being dropped from Wildcard. Well, looking good for them. There's only one more player he can res. The frag grenade pressure still coming in. He's got 5 seconds on the clock. He needs to get this member up so they can at least have some semblance of an opportunity to stay in this game.
And that's the one counter for a car forward approaching for the backside.
Monarch coming in.
He goes through the smoke and is able to find the spray and knocks down both members of HQA. Out they go. Zyphon going to be going down to the headshot of the AKM from Monarch. Pittsburgh Knights are trying to advance themselves further in this game, but now Nova's Chodo, he's going to be kind of hanging out on the tree side, a solo player, as Misfits and Space Station still postured right next to each other. But here comes the third-party engagement coming up from a team just to the south. It's going to be blinded by wind, spotting out 2 of the members of Space Station Gaming riding that defilade.
And that's right from one side of the circle to the other. They're just looking straight on that path where they got him and knocking him down. Misfits have recovered from that earlier engagement with Space Station Gaming. They're in a prime position to take game number 3. As Ark's about to get a little bit of a Christmas present. It's come early for him as he jumps into that care package. He's going to pick up some resources. M24 bolt action coming out there, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be huge for Arcs. A late game care package is so big if you're able to get to it safely and pick it up like he was able to do just now. Blinded by wind, they have 3 members alive. They did lose one of their teammates, but they're not going to be too hampered by that just yet. 6 teams alive, 16 players, under a 3-player per team average. So that kind of goes to show you just how powerful Misfits and Space Station Gaming are posturing to be here in the late game.
Beowulf's got that ghillie suit. He's just hiding down. He's been spotted out. You can't hide forever. It's going to be Nova. No, sorry. Silent Killer's coming in there with a kill. Beowulf being knocked. Felix going to kill. Percasas answers in kind. Gets himself that knock onto Chris. Can't commit to the execute, though. Doesn't have the info, doesn't have the help. He's calling in reinforcements from Misfits as Cotto trying to get those kills coming in. Felix being taken out by Cotto, and he's going to rotate round. I believe he's operating by himself now, solo for Team Nova, putting the hopes and dreams to get in a high placement in these final circles.
Certainly 4 kills for Nova right now, but will they be able to advance this even further, rack up those placement points to boot? Misfits, 0 kills, or rather they were able to pick up 1 kill now to their name, but I feel like they've been getting knocks left and right, and now Space Station Gaming is on the offensive.
It's Sixless again, baby. He's getting those kills on Blinded by Win as they're pressing up, dealing with everyone else. They can focus solely on their real competition, Misfits Gaming. They can clean that up. They can deal with the 4v4 engagement.
4v4v1 is what we are left with. 1 player from Nova off to the far west, and then 2 teams, Misfits and Space Station Gaming. It's so fitting. These are 2 teams that we were primed to look at for our Erangel matches, and well, Misfits, they don't want to go out again. They want another first place because, Trid, we were talking about it on the break. If Misfits can continue to rack up these points, they are going to be secured, at least in their point totals, very early on in this 4-week tournament.
They've actually already hit the century. They've already got over it because they guaranteed that minimum 3rd place finish. They're going to end up hitting it right now. Sixless throwing in some grenades nice and early. Cotto's off to the side, but his hand will be forced when that circle starts to move in, and he's going to run into 2 4-man squads. Who's going to divert it? Grand landing straight by Pyra. Could be dangerous here. It's not going to go off just yet to kill him off. The Sixless still trying to find the angle. They're playing around the terrain well, but the smoke's just obscuring everything. Juicy's gone in very aggressively, and now he has to stop the members from collapsing onto him. You're looking for Misfits Gaming. Takes a lot of damage on the Acer. Fragger v Fragger, just peeking casually, spraying down the bullets. Won't give him in. Acer's going in for the frag. Tries it against Juicy. Gets knocked himself as the rest of the team's going to be collapsing in on this one. Perkins off to the side, trying to find the damage where he can. The SSG are just being outflanked here by the members of Misfits Gaming, as Pyra will find 2 as he's going to secure that kill onto Sixless. Misfits Gaming in a great position to win this. 3 members remaining, 1 member knocked, and they just have to deal with Cotto.
0 kills about 2 minutes ago, but that has quickly changed now. Misfits have 5 kills, marked that 6 kills, and another first place finish to their name here in game number 3. Pyra, Uneven, Acer, and Perkins sauce. Whatever they ate for breakfast, I'm having tomorrow, Trid.
Unreal scenes. 3 maps back to back. They get that first place finish. They have absolutely decimated the points table today, Esquire, guaranteeing themselves, I'm going to say, just off my estimations, 110 to 120 points coming off after 3 maps. They could probably coast for the rest of the group stage and still find themselves in our semifinals.
Coast, or maybe try out some new strategies, throw some wrenches and some other teams competing in this lobby. But holy cow, Misfits. I mean, where do I get a Misfits jersey? Because I think at this stage in the game, it's pretty much guaranteed that I need one.
Yeah, you're going to have to need one, yeah. Hit us up. Hit us up. We'll take jerseys. We can be bribed.
No, we can't. But anyways, a huge game, though, coming out from these teams. I mean, you got to give it up to what Nova was able to do, though. Cotto, as a solo player, they had 4 kills to their name. That's not a small amount of kills by any means. I mean, certainly a majority of teams we've seen maybe not even rack up 1 kill in these games. It's not easy, but Cotto championing for his team. That difference between 3rd and 2nd place that he was able to secure, that's points. And wherever you can get them, you need to.
We talked about it at the top of the show. It's that difference between 2nd and 1st that is the real killer. There's 8 points. Whereas it's about 2 or 3 depending on when you drop down on average. So Misfits riding high. 3rd map win of the day. We've got 1 more map for you, but before we hit that final session of Erangel, we're going to do a quick break. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 2019 PUBG Mobile Club Open. My name is Esquire, joined here, of course, by Trid for the entirety of this tournament. And what a fantastic game number 3 we just saw played out.
Another Misfits Gaming win, and they brought it on Erangel, which we keep saying that is the map that matters. 6 out of your 12 games in the group stage, and it all played on Erangel. You get that map right, you are absolutely golden. The one caveat of Misfits Gaming's dominant run today has been they've always had great circle placement. Before I'm willing to give this team everything and say this is an NA powerhouse beyond comprehension, they need to have a game where they're having to play against circle.
Right, and that's what we're all going to be looking for. Will it be in game number 4, or will they continue to sort of find these center positions? Hopefully game number 4 we see that track. We want to see that far rotation, how they work in that rotation strategy, because albeit, rotation strategy is one of the more important, one of the more significant factors in competitive PUBG Mobile. Certainly all these players at the top tier competitive scene, they've got the mechanical skills, but do they have the strategy as a squad?
One of the strategies we have seen that's been quite successful for the squads are these solo operators. Even in that map 3, Cotto came in. We saw Unnamed Sin, when we were on Miramar as well, come in and get those additional placements for his team and kind of score quite big on when it came round to getting those points.
Really did.
Just by Cotto staying alive and avoiding the Space Station Gaming Misfits clash, which seems to be an occurring problem for both of these teams. Cotto was then able to get his team that second place finish, 22 points guaranteed on the placements, despite having, I think it was 4 kills he got, so 26-point game, mainly off the back of Cotto. Yeah,
the insurance policy really coming in clutch right there for Nova, and that was sort of a team that we expected to do well on Erangel. Traditionally in the past, this has been their map, so albeit it wasn't a full 4-man squad effort that got them there to that second place position, it was a solo effort, and you can't really take anything away from that.
No, and we're getting ready to jump into our next installment of Erangel. Like I said, we have a double whammy every single day of the classic map, and let's try to go back even further to where we saw a couple of these teams drop in. Okay, so we saw Millie double occupied down there, but I think Totality dropped in there, and they have I think they were contesting against F6.
Yes,
they both kind of shared Millie. The rest of the teams, Misfits Gaming, their choice, they went for North Georgia Pole.
Yes, they did. Yeah, very interesting drops. I mean, Space Station Gaming, I'm looking to see if they can clutch up those first place positions, because they've sort of had issues in that mid to late game transition. And kind of, I guess in the last 2 games, it's been Misfits that has sort of been the wrench in their plans. But I'm going to be looking for Space Station Gaming to really find their footing here in this final match of the day, because it's day 1, right? You really want to start off on a strong foot. They're already about halfway there in terms of where they are in this lobby, but can they execute? Can they take away the first place from Misfits?
Yeah, Group A in particular, rather than Group B, they need to be more on their game, because they've got their next round of competition coming on Sunday. Whereas Group B's, we're not going to see them until next week now, after today's game. In Group A, if you're not familiar, Group A is going to contain Misfits Gaming, so that's the dominant team right now. And you've also sharing that with the other high-end team of... Really, I don't think they're contested. The other top teams that have been showing up are in Group B right now in this competition. So Misfits seem to be running away with their group altogether. These guys, they're going to be going into Sunday, so they need to keep on top form for those next set of games. I feel as though Space Station Gaming, one of their problems we're seeing at the moment is that, like, they got the frags. They're able to get those frags in Sixless, really popping off here on those long-distance maps. They're just having the problem of always hitting the semis, never the stage, if you know what I mean.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, exactly right. And they're putting in good strategy to try to get there, but there's so many forces working against them, mainly, again, in the name of Misfits. But can they find that position that they're so desperately trying to get to? I'm going to be looking for them, Trid. We'll see. But we are popping over into our 4th and final game of day 1 of the PUBG Mobile Club Open for North America. And, Will, let's get it underway. All players up in the cargo hold, ready to drop out and find those loot locations.
Be dropping down now. Acer staying in here, so we are moving around just pretty much along the river that divides Millie and the rest of Erangel. So it does mean those northern territories may be slightly harder to get to immediately, but of course the teams have the luxury of moving if they can get themselves some vehicles and just start traversing the terrain themselves.
So now that we have seen all 4 plane paths of the day, we can definitively say, well, not too friendly for any of these plane paths. They've all been favored towards one of the polar directions here on the maps, whether it be north, south, east, or west. None of them are going to be cutting directly through the center, whether it be on Vikendi, Miramar, or Erangel. So how can these teams adjust off of that? Certainly some of those northern spots about Severny, Stahlberg, Kameshki, Zarki shooting range. If teams want to actually trek all the way up there, well, they're going to have to find some vehicles to do so.
Misfits have changed up this time. Misfits are just taking control of military base, and the rest of these teams are heading towards the eastern side, and want to be trying to avoiding them as we're already seeing some engagements. HQA actually taking early firefights with, I believe, Lights Out when they're colliding just south of Georgia Pole in the hospital area.
And this is actually interesting as well. Novo down on the military base sees two teams going directly towards it. Could we possibly see some action there? Because Misfits has all of military base proper to themselves. That's a lot of loot for one of your top teams here. I guess we can say the top team, at least on this lobby today. But Acer, he's going to be picking up some of that much-needed loot. Lights Out, picking up some quick kills there on HQA as Nova pops off on F6 as well.
Sam getting the knock, trying to find F6, so he's by himself at the moment. Beowulf, Cotto, and the rest of the gang trying to move themselves around there. Baba being knocked is going to cause the rest of F6 to close ranks, and this is where Nova can start to take territory, start pincering them in, boxing them in, finding this crossfire to take them out.
Trid, you and I were doing some research into the teams competing here today, and we discovered we were expecting Novo to be a hotbed for team-on-team action, and what we finally found that we didn't see it in game number 3. The playing path wasn't necessarily favorable for this drop, but now we are seeing it, a square off between two full teams, 4v4 scenario. Can F6 recover off of this, rather? They did lose F2, so 3v4 rather. Baba about to go down as well. Happy going to be dropped. Now 2v4. Can Baba and Handsome continue on? Can they keep it up? Can they push off Nova from this aggress?
It's looking dire, Esquire. I don't know if they're going to be able to get it away with this one as Cotto starting to move around. They're really tightening this noose they have around F6. Handsome, the only healthy member is Baba and Happy both being knocked, and they're looking for Handsome to do it, but look at the high ground being taken away from Nova. There's no way Handsome survives this, but he gets the knock onto Edwin. He doesn't have the time to get a kill as he has to take cover. Refresh, get himself a reload. He's being boxed in. Sam, and it's going to be Edwin cleaning them up. They'll make sure that everyone drops down, and that's an early squad ripe coming in for F6.
Yeah, the action that we really expected to pop off here at Nova finally graced our presence, and now Nova says, well, this is going to be our map. All 4 still remaining. They're going to be able to continue on in this game, but again, it is going to be a tough game for these teams. This circle is sort of interesting. If we look at the map, we see that the circle is currently splitting off about 40-60 in favor of the northern part of Erangel, so teams will have to keep that into consideration. Will they hedge their bets towards the north, or will they go down south towards Sosnovka Island in favor of not making another shift to the other direction?
When we're looking at this map, though, look at Georgia Pole right now. Lights Out are splitting HQA in South Georgia Pole right now, and that's a dangerous position to be in. They can just take a 4v2 on one side. You should be conscious of the back end, and here's Munoz. Might be caught out by Wildcard as they're just holding this house and they're looking right at him. They know he's in there.
They are aware of his presence. Certainly Munoz with his flower cap on, trying to hide from the lines of sight of Wildcard. Cream, they had lost 2 members early on in game number 3 on Erangel, trying not to repeat the same performance that they saw in that match, because having all 4 up is going to be so significant given what we've seen in these end-game circles. They've been 4-on-4 engagements. You saw it between Space Station Gaming and Misfits, but now it's going to be Wildcard swarming the members of Cream.
Cream called reinforcements immediately. Once they had that solo member of Munoz, he's like, help me guys, there's multiple members of Wildcard, I'm going to need some backup. They've called him in and they're playing very safely. They're playing very far back, trying to take these long sight lines and potentially get a few knocks onto them, but they're not taking the engagement right now. They're backing off. They just want safety in numbers to make sure they don't drop those members early.
They're creating that distance. They're off that peninsula around that Melt to Power area. Not a bad spot for them to be in given this circle, but certainly they want to create even more of a buffer zone between them and Wildcard. Wildcard, a deadly squad if they have the lines of sight on you. And well, Shogun over here and Pachinki, 2 teams landed here once again, and Filthy has not disengaged. His other teammates have not disengaged. We might see the battle for the heart of this Erangel map, the Pachinki fight.
But this is exactly what happened last time around, is both these teams dropping. If you remember what happened in map number 3 of today, Rice ended up being caught out by Unnamed and left in Pachinki by himself, and that lack of information meant that Unnamed didn't go and aggress onto them. We might see a similar pattern here, and well, this time around, maybe we're going to see Shoguns try and take the fight and potentially force Unnamed out of Pachinki.
Both of these teams have been able to pick up at least a good amount of loot. You can see that Sin, he's got the level 2 helmet, the DP-28, as well as another assault rifle to boot, but will it be enough? Will they be able to find those so needed shots onto the members of Shogun across the road to the south? Both of these teams just sort of posturing in a very passive position, trying to seek that information.
Lights Out, taking a few knocks here. This is HQA, trying to find them. They've already lost one of their members in these engagements against Lights Out, but they've got them on the ropes here. Low members down, covering fire, suppressive fire coming in from Seagun. It goes for the corner peek. Zfan dropped down by Seagun. Memo's holding around the flank. They got Rolex back into the game. They need some heals now. Yifei just being flanked from behind. Memo finding it perfectly to cut this down. Molly being thrown over the top as Hunzi trying to create some pressure to get himself out, potentially get the res, but he's being collapsed on. Look at the aggression coming out from Lights Out. They're happy to take the fight and clean up HQA.
All of HQA rather going out in 15th position. An incredibly aggressive play from Lights Out right there, showing their confidence, their skill in this Erangel map. They know the terrain. They know exactly where they need to push and where they can safely hide behind to get those resets, get those reloads. But back here in Pachinki, the battle rages on. The shots are going to continue to be traded back and forth, and that's going to be the first knock coming out in this town as Yoda for Shogun goes down.
Bill has to take cover here, taking a few shots himself. Needs to recover before he peeks again. Yoda, I think he's in a position where he can be rezzed by Rice. Moraz going to be dropped down by Polar Ace and Dilly somewhere else in the engagements. This is going to cool down for now. What I want to talk about, though, is how Shoguns and Unnamed, they're both populated in Group A. So whichever the game day comes in, they're going to end up sharing Pachinki at this rate. This isn't a team that's going to be broken off for a future engagement.
Exactly right. This is a battle to continue to look at whenever Lobby A is going to be playing. So keep an eye on that as Unnamed's Bill continues to trek up to the third story of this building here in Pachinki. Two sets of these buildings that teams can utilize, but he's going to be in the far eastern one trying to spot down any of the members of Shogun. Philithy going to be dropped down to about 60% HP as Rice and Yoda try to do whatever they can to maneuver out of the lines of sight of the members of the squad.
They've lost Dex. It's a 3v4. Unnamed, if we're counting the total record here of Pachinki control, this is Unnamed City.
Yes.
It's theirs. They own it.
The sample size isn't large, but they certainly own it in a 1-0 fashion. But can they continue to push that off? Will they be able to dominantly secure it? Because, hey, if you make a team leave, sure, that might be a win. But if you wipe out a team, that is 100% a W.
It's about sending the message, Phil, and that's exactly what they're looking to do. Popping the energy drinks of Yoda, try and get that healing in. He's trying to take some shots as Sin has already found Rice, and now we're dropping it down to two members who are active. Rice isn't out of the game just yet, can be rezzed. He's in a dangerous position. It's going to be too risky to go for him. Yoda taking the shots to try and keep Sin at bay. He's also just guaranteeing they know exactly where his position is. Gunfire is really easy to track.
An interesting fight here. These two teams were postured on the north and southern sides of Pachinki, but now you have two of the members of this squad, of Unnamed rather, pushing around the far western side, trying to get that flank. And well, they've completely pulled away the attention of Shogun from Max and Bill to the north, and it's all going to be on Miski and Sin. And the angles are going to be certainly had as Sin is able to find the flush on to Rice, but will he be able to find the other two members? Filthy and Yoda still trying to posture. Yoda's already been knocked once, so he will be bleeding out extremely fast should he be knocked again.
Here's Sin, leading the charge at the point man. He wants to come around the side. He's getting awfully close to Shogun's, about to clash with him in the door. Don't know if he held the angle. He might go down. He turns it around at the last second. We're a fraction of HP. Yoda going down, being dropped. And guess what? You know what, Shoguns? They're leaving. They're paying for placement now. You send Filthy. Get him the hell out of there.
Filthy says, okay, Unnamed, you got Pachinki. We are not going to be coming here likely again. Because, hey, here's the thing. These two teams are in the same group, like you said, Trid, but they have to rank up the points as much as possible. If points are being farmed by one team in your group, well, those are points that you're not going to be able to get. And the top 8 will, or bottom 8 rather, at the end of these 4 weeks of play will be dropped out.
So Pachinki was the early start, and I think Unnamed to state that claim, but they're going to have to leave now. We're looking where the circles go, and it's starting to transition into that 50-50 over on Sosnovka, just to make sure. It's probably going to end up going towards Military Island, but that bridge is going to be hotly contested. You can already see Misfits and Space Station Gaming. They're going to clash again. These two teams always seem to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, as Percasas has taken out Juicy and secured that kill.
So this is definitely going to give the indication to Space Station as to who they are fighting off against. They are not going to push up to this bridge. I do not think, Trid, if they do, it's going to be a very dangerous proposition for the 3 remaining members of Space Station Gaming, because Misfits are prepped and ready to spray down should they have the opportunity.
Cream are coming up behind them as well. Space Station Gaming, their hand might be forced here, because you can always see Munoz and the rest of Cream Esports NA looking to come up behind them, and they're going to get sandwiched, and they don't want to run into Misfits. Carnage going to take a few shots. They already lost Juicy. Don't want to lose any more. Did make Misfits tighten up, but won't find anything else beyond that.
It's going to be an extremely dangerous area of the map, especially given the fact that down south on Military Island on the crossroad just past Misfits, it's going to be Nova waiting for anyone who is able to make it through that Misfits barricade with whatever HP they have remaining. But certainly Percasas continuing to look over towards Milta, spots out the team trying to make a rotation. Far shots with the SKS, not putting out a lot of damage, but certainly feeling that pressure is going to be our squad in Milta of Cream.
Just need to find a way to potentially move over there. Military Island, if you see Totality over on the western side, taking a fight with Silent Killers, and Polar Ace Gaming actually finding some kills on to Silent Killers on that western entrance to military base. So both bridges being locked down by singular teams. Totality ready to capitalize when Polar Ace has to move onto the island indefinitely.
They've got to figure out how they want to make this trek across the channel a dangerous rotation that they're going to have to figure out how to make as Ace starts to at least send the vehicles across the bridge dangerously nearby to where the members of Totality are. And we might be seeing some shots popping off soon as Misfits Gaming going to be taking some damage continuing from Space Station Gaming, sending out some poke shots from the north.
They've already managed to get Dilly. He's knocked down. He's on life support right now. Totality holding down this crossroads on that western bridge. As the same is happening for Misfits, but less action happening on this eastern flank because Space Station Gaming playing this softly. They don't have the blue following them as much as the western side does. As Unnamed coming in on the vehicle right behind Polar Ace. This could explode if they're not careful, but Totality have to move. They don't want to be fighting against blue and make sure they're retaining as much HP as possible. Actually playing it quite slowly at the moment. Not taking the move, going for the energy drink. Shakes has found Max, and he's going to be answered by Sin, taking him out, and eventually he's full on combat. Sin again, making sure that Shakes is going to be dropped indefinitely as they're trying to fight across this bridge. JBP also being dropped down this one. Just trying to keep the knocks coming on the bridge, but no definite team wipe coming on that western bridge.
And holy cow, the next circle has popped. Phase number 2 is going to be extremely
Misfits
deadly.
Again!
I mean, it is going to be Misfits smack dab in the middle of the circle. They're in a much more volatile position than they were in the previous 3 games, but dang, Trid, they are in the center once again. I mean, no one expected it, right? No one expected it.
It's Misfits magic at this point.
Misfits magic, you heard it coined here by Trid.
Misfits magic is definitely what they're embracing right now. There's still those fights going on the western bridge, and they're keeping Space Station Gaming at bay. Unnamed Sin, he probably healed up as best as he can, goes on their tricks, actually taking out Pro DJ from Polar Ace. I think that finishes off the journey of Polar Ace for today's broadcast.
This is an extremely deadly circle. I don't know how these teams are going to choose or decide to work around this. Do you hedge your bet towards the north? Do you hedge your bet towards the south? And how do you make it there safely, right? Certainly you can decide where to go, but the path there can be a little bit more difficult than you expected as Misfits continue to hold on to that bridge location on the east. But Nova, we already saw them wipe out a team down on Military Island in that Novo city. Maybe they like it because it's close to their team name, but they are continuing on 4 kills to their name as the Pittsburgh Knights on the Military Island start to trek over to this eastern bridge where Nova has held onto the crossroads. Shots coming out. Yeah, that's going to be 7 taking a lot of damage now, trying to pull off this as much as possible, but Sam is pushing up aggressively.
Always try to do that, taking the shot on Pittsburgh Knights. Return fire coming in, drops into just over 50% HP. They're unafraid of this engagement. They're going to have Wi-Fi knocked. In turn, Sam's going to end up being knocked himself. So now, 3v3 in the engagement. 1 member down. They can still salvage this one and keep a higher placement finish on the line. Going to send 7 in with the vehicle. Hopefully provide some cover with the smoke as well to get Wi-Fi back into the game. So close to getting the kill! There could have been an execution coming in there, but he keeps him up and provides that cover in the same way. Cotto going over to try and save Sam.
Yeah, thankful for both teams. They're going to have a little bit of a reprieve from battle to pick up both teammates, maybe reset this, maybe re-engage as we see some of the members of the Pittsburgh Knights still looking the direction of Novo. Cotto going to be sticking the res, 3 seconds left until Sam is up with about 30 HP, get the first aids off, and then worry about the threat over to the east. And it looks like Nova is going to be challenging this. They're not going to be pulling off because they're going to have to deal with the Pittsburgh Knights one way or another before this game ends.
The third parties are starting to get involved because you can see Totality still dealing with Unnamed. They're moving further and further east, and they could be collapsing on them. You got Cream, a whole mixture of teams actually playing around like dolphins in the water right now in between the 2 islands, just playing for circle and placement, I guess.
You know, it's the best of the worst evils on the map, right? I mean, if you have nowhere to go or a lot of bad places to go, where do you go? Just hop in the channel and you might be safe. Likely not, though, as we have seen in PUBG Mobile. Water is not the safest place for you to be, but we'll see how it works out for the members of those squads that have found themselves swimming.
Edwin and the rest of the boys of Nova taking just stock right now, making sure they're getting to a safe position, preferably around this bridge because it's pushing them north. Everyone's going to have to vacate Military Island now, and it's Misfits taking control of that pivotal bridge, that pathway in between the 2 islands, and they're going to cut off so many members, but they're also going to be under so much pressure to remain in control.
The only way of transportation to the northern side of Erangel is via car, via that bridge, unless you have a boat. A lot of teams are already starting to swim from the military island up towards the north. You can see them off in the distance there, but Unnamed is trying to decide what do we do here down on military island. Totality still looking at us. Are we going to be able to get to the coastal line to swim in to hopefully be safe, or will we have to make that far southern rotation to try to get to the bridge?
Looks like Nova is using Beowulf as a point man to push forward onto the bridge. I think they're going to push up against Misfits and Percocet. The Richie taking the shots at Pittsburgh Knights. Will knock 7. Can define Monarch, but it returns fire. Drops him down. Richie on the downs, but now it's going to cause everyone to close ranks. They press forward, looking for the engagement. Lord Fudo comes from the side. Monarch inside the house. Relative safety. Needs to throw a nade out here as the res is coming in to bring 7 back into the fight. Can the same be said about Totality? They're going to bring 7 hopefully back to fight this at full strength.
As this battle plays out, a team off to the far or southwest of this position, we were just talking about them, Unnamed. They hear the shots coming out, and well, they pushed up off of that southern flank a little bit, possibly trying to scout out what's going on. Maybe they want to engage, or maybe they just want to make sure that they have a safe rotation around to the west.
Wildcard has the safety of a boat, but it's Triggs popping off on Pittsburgh Knights. It's Wi-Fi actually being dropped by Unnamed. They've come in to crash the party as Beowulf will start taking out Zeus, who was in that boat with the rest of Wildcard, as Sin's going to finish off Wi-Fi and Monarch. Pittsburgh Knights in dire straits now, so it's just Jagger and 7 to keep him alive, but then Jagger's been knocked. It's all on 7 as Unnamed press forward and aggress to the house. Max potentially going to be knocked down here, but the pressure is too high from Unnamed for him to maintain that sight line and try and contest them even further.
A 3-team engagement. All 3 teams know that they have to fight through this to get up to the north, to get to the safe zone, and who is going to be able to come out of this meat grinder with something still left on their team? Miski trying to do just that, popping in between the smokes, going to get a quick loot infusion while he continues to wrap around the building, trying to spot out the members of the Pittsburgh Knights. Totality inside of the closet. He's going to be able to find 7 and takes him down and out with the AKM.
Jagger's already been dropped as well. That's Pittsburgh Knight going out now. And it's 11th place, 10 teams remaining. Miski, Sin, and Max still alive, looking to turn their attention onto Totality, but the same thing's being done to them. They know they have to deal with 1 team now. The third party has just become 2. It's a 3v3 engagement, and we're looking to try and put this on ice for now. They could heat up at any second.
Blue zone pressure on the backsides of Unnamed. They're going to have to push into Totality one way or another in just a few seconds. Totality just has to make a quick hop into the channel to get into the safe zone and avoid blue zone damage, but they can't do that with Unnamed on their back. Lord Fudo quickly trying to spot out the member of Unnamed, Sin, on that bit of a hill. He throws the molly, trying to get some zoning pressure as the blue zone starts to encroach on the members of Unnamed.
out of nowhere!
He's got to move! He's able to do it with 1 HP. The Vuaz explodes. He's able to drop down the members of Unnamed. Now just has to worry about Sin.
Needs to worry about Sin. He's still alive. He's getting the first aid kit. 1 bullet would have done it. Sin knows this is moving in. He's opening into a firing line, though. Gets the drop onto Lord Fudo. He can still save his team, but the Blues coming in. I don't think he's going to be able to get the res off, but they're just playing around the edge. Opens fire onto Triggs. Needs to change the attention over to the other members as he presses forward. He fights Dodger and he gets it! Sin putting his team on the back, and he's even going to be able to pull up his comrade as well. He's keeping Miski and the rest of Unnamed in this final map.
Well played by Sin right there, the champion here for this Unnamed squad. He had to do just what he did and was able to execute that beautifully as we see our next circle shift, though, directly once again on top of the members of Misfits. However, they do have many unfriendly neighbors starting to encroach on their territory. Will they be able to hold this? Because, hey, let's be real, the position that Misfits is in is more vulnerable than any position they found themselves in the late game the entirety of today.
Perksas is down. He's moving towards uneven for that resurrection just off to the bottom of the screens right now. A lot of people still playing under the bridge. They want those placement points, and they're willing to do that, but eventually they may have to come out and storm the beach in a danger. Look at Illusions. He's got the sight lines. He's waiting to pop them the second they poke their head out of these concrete pillars. He has to be cautious. There's some members off to the left-hand side. It's lights out off to the west. We're just going to start swimming into the area and avoiding blinded by winds.
Yeah, you stay in that water too long, and you might get a little bit pruny, and you certainly aren't going to be getting those kills that you might so desperately need, at least for some of these teams. If your name isn't Misfits, you need kills. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
In terms of this lobby. Nova's Beowulf, he's going to be up on top of the car. A nice place to be. His feet are going to be shielded from any type of damage underneath the vehicle, and his head is still protected because he's got that dashboard, that rear view window to sort of hide behind. But Misfits are posturing. They're up on top of the dossier, which allows them that elevated position to look over the wall and possibly spot out some of the members of Nova making that cross.
Unnamed are getting their cardio in right now. They're taking the swim to try and get into that circle. Same could be said for Lights Out. Memo actually staying in the blue zone for now. I'm not sure what he's doing over there. He's going to crash a vehicle and reunite the members of Misfits. His illusion's going to open it up. Memo will just die to the blue zone. Not sure what happened there. Maybe some issues with him, but the rest of his squad still survives. 3 men moving into the circle for Lights Out.
They're going to be on the west-hand side in the water, and not in an incredibly dangerous position, but they can't do much from it as action starts to pop out. Misfits going to be encroached on by none other than Space Station Gaming. The grenades are coming out. The pressure is being felt by Space Station, but it's not pushing them back. They're going to be aggressing onto this gas station with everything they have, and they're going to see if they can take out the Misfits.
Throwing the grenades in, getting the arc over the top. They know exactly where Misfits are. They really want to knock them. Ace has gone down low, knocking on Death's door. This is a 3v4 engagement because they've already lost Juicy earlier on into the fight. You're having to deal with a full-strength Misfits rosters. Pyro's off to the side. He's using the smoke right now to fire in an alternative angle. Even pops the molly to make sure he cannot be aggressed on by the side of Space Station Gaming, but I don't think they got the strength to. What I really need to be concerned about right now is Blinded to win. They're right there. You also got yourself Carnage on a completely different angle to try and catch Misfits in some kind of crossfire.
And it really comes down to who is going to shoot who first and who's going to have that third-party advantage. Will it be Misfits engaging onto the fight between Blinded by Win and Space Station Gaming, or will Misfits get engaged on first? We'll have to wait and see how this plays out because it's about to get extremely deadly as our next shrink comes out, phase number 5 in full effect, and it's going to be holding on to that northern part of Erangel, that bit of land that connects to the bridge down to Sanhok.
I think Carnage is playing as an insurance policy for the rest of Space Station Gaming, playing from behind, but he is taking an engagement right now with Blinded to win. Comes out angry. He's got an isolated Pyro, wants to finish him off. He's actually going to be able to get that nice and easy. Pyro being dropped by Helmet, that second member in this squad of Space Station Gaming. Trying to take this to Misfits. They don't want to be beaten again by this roster and finally trump them on a map. They're pyring up a molly. There's no way they're going to be able to get the pyro without clearing Space Station Gaming, and that might force a hand and a mistake from a team that has been flawless so far.
Exactly. Misfits have to leave this gas station. They've got to find a way to wrap. Will it be around the north, around the western side of the gas station, or down south? Either way, they're going to be running into one of the teams, Blinded by Win or Space Station Gaming, as Percasauce tries to look. Nova has pushed up off the bridge. They're going to be holding a dominant part of the eastern flank of the circle, and that is cutting off a lot of play area that Misfits might want to retreat to, or they were thinking about retreating to. No longer.
We forgot about Nova, and so did Misfits. Acer, he got knocked. He's brought back into the fight. It could have been a 2v2 situation on a man like that. But Lucifer's being knocked by Nova as well, who have somehow taken control of this circle, opening up onto Swift, who's just taking a swim at the moment. The Helmet very close to Blinded by Win. Throws that nade over the top. Needs to be careful. If he shows too hard, he could get turned on by multiple streams of fire. There's a couple of members. Parker actually going down here. Damage coming in from Carnage, so he's calling in reinforcements from that crossfire. Rolex will find Cheto. And now they're opening it up onto Blinded by Win. Acer actually taking out Carnage and the rest of Space Station Gaming as well. It's not looking well for them as Misfits have come back to life and retain control of this gas station.
Exactly. All three of these teams have gotten into a fight with one another. Trades going to be had from everyone except for the Misfits, not losing any members in this engagement. 2 members left for Space Station. Helmet and Angry holding on to this cliffside down to the south, dangerously nearby to 3 members of Blinded by Win. Manny, Parker, and the rest of the crew are trying to do whatever they can to hold on to the blue zone to their backs and not push up too far into the lines of enemy sight. But holding on, and it's going to be Helmet. He spots out Parker. He's spraying through the grass, able to find the connection, and there goes the down, but has to reset quickly because a lot of eyes are now looking down to the south.
Be careful. He's got that other teammate over to the left. I believe it is Manny just trying to heal up. Nova is the only full-strength squad remaining. Misfits have 3, and it's Cream and Space Station with 2 remaining. And it's Misfits trying to stay alive. They are in the center of the action. Helmet playing around it. Their Space Station having to move in. Trying to clean up onto Misfits. And Misfits are in a very dangerous position right now. They're smoking it, but they're hiding behind that concrete panel. They are going to have to emerge from it, I believe, eventually. But the circle still working in their favor, pushing the action towards them and the defensive position they now hold.
4 teams remaining, 11 players alive. A 4v3, v2, v2 in favor of Nova with still 4 players alive. Nova has been able to rack up kill after kill after kill, currently sitting at 11 and trying to increase that kill count with their eyes set on Misfits, but they haven't been able to land those connections. The AWM for Sam, though, is trying to ring true, trying to pound out those 300 Magnum shots onto his opponents, but haven't done it just yet. Cream somehow somehow still surviving. Team number 9, they're going to be along the cliffside, down in the water, just riding along those edges of the mountain, or of the coastal line,
rather. They need to be very careful. They need to be very careful. Space Station Gaming turn on them. They're just going to be dropped. Munoz already been taken out by Helmet, so they did. They got the information. Look to the right. Do they know that second member is still there, though? They might need to be careful of Kira. He's hiding behind the rock. Angry's looking that direction in case that path becomes another option for a team. So I think they've got good information here and be able to keep Kira at bay. But while they're looking there, they're not gathering information about what's happening on the rest of the playing field. And that could be detrimental to them. As Percasas is knocked by Sam with that rifle. He's been eyeing up that sight line for so long, and it finally pays him dividends.
Somehow the Misfits gas station is still safe. They've been able to hide behind that wall. But if they have to move, it's wide open areas. They haven't utilized a lot of smokes just yet. You have to think they might have some more utility in those backpacks. But here comes Nova. They see this wide open road. They continue to pound out those shots by Sam with the AWM. That sound alone is enough to put pressure on your team and make you fearful of where you're going to be pushing out on. Still 4 alive, though, for Nova. They're trying to keep their numbers strong.
And I like what they're doing here. They're not taking anything for granted. You can constantly see that they've got Beowulf and Edwin checking behind them, as well as Cotto, to make sure there's no flanks coming in. Kira will start dying to the blue zone. I think he's just realized that placement is over. He can't get up here realistically against Space Station. So now it's a 3v2v4 coming in here for the final 3 teams. And consistently, Nova, Space Station, Misfits is feeling awfully similar to what was happening on the last attempt of Erangel.
Exactly right. We'll see how it plays out here. Some of the stronger teams in this lobby, at least that we researched coming into it, are alive here in essentially a 3-way battle. Cream, Kyria, going to be essentially written out down there in the water, but now it rages on. Nova versus Space Station Gaming versus Misfits. Who is going to be able to come out on top of this engagement? Because it's a 4v3v2. The numbers are stacked in favor of Nova, but if there's anything we know, Misfits is strong enough of a team to still be able to effectuate their strategy with 3 alive.
And this is now the only opportunity I've seen where Misfits don't have a circle in their favor. They need to push into the center. It's already been smoked out, but one team has to pull the trigger and go first. It's a Mexican standoff coming in here. Whoever goes for it is difficulty, but Beowulf takes the vehicle in, presses it up to give cover to his team for one sight line, so he can then focus on exclusively one. So SSG have been forced out of the fight right now. It's Misfits versus Nova, and SSG need to change it if they want to contest.
And the most important thing that just happened in terms of the landscape of this battle was the only car inside of this circle that Nova had. They pushed it up, and they were able to create that mobile cover. They've got the smokes as well to push up to it, but can they play off of it? All eyes will be on Nova from both Space Station and Misfits, and they are certainly going to be popping out the shots right now as Nova tries to peek around the right-hand side of these smokes. The grenades are going to be coming out as well. Misfits feeling so much pressure, but will Sam's grenade ring true on top of the members of Misfit? It hasn't just yet, but Misfits, they're going to be losing members to the blue zone. Ace are able to turn on the Nova. Sam going down.
But SSG come in on Percasas. They're still alive, sitting prone right now. Angry finishes that one off as Edwin trying to stay alive and revive members of Nova. It's now a 2v4, and it's going to be Space Station Gaming getting into the circle, playing behind the cover of the bus stop, but the fire is being lit on them. Grenades are being thrown, utility being used. It's now time to cash in those resources and get yourself the W.
Nova has just now beaten out the kill record so far on day number 1 set by Misfits. They've raked up 12 kills to their name so far. They've got at least 2 more opportunities to pick up 2 more kills.
Here comes the push. They're coming in. They know that they got one knocked. It's Helmet in life. Pushing forward. Angry goes down. And that's all she wrote. Nova goes ahead, picks up the win, and denies Misfits an undefeated day 1.
An undefeated day 1, but a stellar day 1 in total for Misfits. You got to give it up to them. 3rd place is certainly nothing to shy away from or be upset about, but you got to give it up to Nova. Huge whopping 14 kill count, Trid.
Looking at the man of the hour, Sam came in and got himself that AWN and started applying that pressure, got multiple knocks onto Misfits, and you noticed how they were doing something with the time. Whenever they got a knock, they're like, cool, right, let's now get some smokes out here, let's then get that vehicle into that sightline, cut off the sightlines of Space Station Gaming so we can focus on one fight.
Yes.
They did that, cleaned out Misfits. Even SSG then came in and was like, okay, we're going to help you with that one. We're now going to have to try and take a 2v4. Credit to them. Angry did try to press up on the bus stop and try and contest it, but as soon as one member got knocked, that's it. You're 4v2. You know that. You just got to rush him. And at that point, it was an easy win for Nova. They've done all the work.
Yeah, it kind of falls apart for the other teams at that stage in the game. But Nova, we talk about it. PUBG Mobile is a game of seconds, a few seconds too late, and will you find your team dropping out a few seconds, though, in the right direction, and Nova sees themselves picking up a W. That car play, though, pushing that up, giving them the cover, was so significant, along with the smoke concealment. The fact that they were able to hold on to all of that utility was a huge factor in their success.
And you can kind of see the consistency here. We just compared it to Erangel maps. Same 3 teams in that finish, albeit under different circumstances. It was Cotto being the solo operator,
yes,
like we said, but we actually saw a more conclusive finish. Cream trying to get their name into the top 4. I believe they successfully did it just by keeping Kira alive long enough, but they weren't really a participant as much as just a spectator.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right.
Participation prizes
yeah,
coming in for them, unfortunately.
If only there were participation prizes here. No participation prizes, but if you find yourselves in those top teams, well, you get something better than that. You get a ticket to participate in the tournament for the $2.5 million. So
that was the first day anyway. We had Group A going up against Group B, and we had Misfits. 1, 2, 3 maps in a row. Vikendi, Miramar, and Erangel, and we just saw Nova clean that up. And we're talking, Misfits are definitely in the 150, 160 territory with points
easy,
at this point.
easy.
And like I said, they've got some breathing room because it is only the bottom 8 teams across all groups that will not be joining us in the semi-finals.
Right.
And I have a feeling the Misfits have... You've got 24 opportunities.
Teams, yes, and I feel like they're pretty far up there.
You gotta do it. So this is the time where they can be experimental, maybe take the pedal off of qualifying and put it more onto development. Build yourself as a team. Not play for the win, play for progress and development, and make yourself a better team overall. But the wins got to feel pretty good.
Yep, you get to try out some new things. You get some new teams that you maybe have not competed against before. Some very strong competitors in this lobby beyond Misfits, so they have to be aware of that. But at least as far as this first part of the tournament goes, Trid, they are looking pretty, they are sitting pretty, and they're feeling good.
Let's have a look at the schedule for tomorrow. And of course, going to kick things off the same, but as the maps for today was Vikendi, Miramar, Erangel, and then the second serving, if you will. You went back for seconds on that one.
Double dips.
Day 2 schedule, going to look very similar. The action's all going to be kicking off at 8 p.m. Pacific time as well. And of course, we're going to be here to bring you all of that action as well. I've been Trid. This has been Esquire. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.